Good evening, everyone. I hope my voice is loud and clear. Thank you. Thank you. It's fine. Thank you, everyone. We still have a minute to go, but in the meantime, we can just quickly check this out. Yesterday, we completed till the slide number 68, and let's quickly have a look at it. That was last question answers thing that we discussed. Yeah, there were basically the question answers stuff we discussed, and now we'll be moving on to the next slide. And this initiation phase is just going to get over, not too big left, which is so we'll be getting to the real content from the project management perspective, which is about the planning part, because that's where everything as a project manager will start doing things. But again, the initiation part has definitely a few important things to kind of grab from here. And yes, that will be a very important stage. Well, some bit of questions will come from this section as well. So first thing first, let's just wait for some more, like just a minute. I guess that's all. One more minute. We can go ahead now. So it's the scheduled time, and we can get started now without any delays. So we talking about hybrid, and we pretty much know the hybrid approach is all about mixing up. You, the boss. So you should have crystal clear understanding how predictive projects will work and how agile will work in this kind of scenario. Whenever we deal with the predictive or agile, and now there could be scenarios where I know for sure certain requirements are crystal clear and I should go with predictive, but some requirements are still unclear and we believe there are more changes expected. So we can make modules, and hybrid works in modules basically. So you can say, okay, this part of my project we have clarity, this part is unclear, and say this part is again we have a sort of clarity about it, this part is unclear, and say again we have got. So we can create modules. So I can say module 1, module 2, module 3. We can modulize and we can say, okay, like some parts are clear. So predictive, 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 and this part is agile. Let's keep it through agile. So you can create modules and different teams will be working on that part. As a project manager, you oversee everything because that's your end-to-end project. The project management framework is only predictive. Agile is not the framework. Agile doesn't have a project manager. Since your project, some part is unclear part, which is where we trying to handle through agile methods. So that's why the PMI wants you to learn the agile practices and understand and start doing the job of a scrum master. So ideally, if you're too busy and you can't be there as a scrum master, you can't be there as a scrum master, then you might have to hire a scrum master. Ideally, they expect you to have that understanding because you're overseeing entire project. You are looking at the entire project. Yes, for the parts where this is agile, an agile part, we don't have a boss kind of thing. But yeah, you can be still engaged here as a scrum master. This part, you can still be engaged as a scrum master. So I can still be continuing I can still be part of that portion, which is about agile, and I can do the job as a scrum master. The rest of it, again, I may hire somebody as scrum master and do that job. So project manager will oversee everything in that case. Now, what percentage of predictive, what percentage of agile, it doesn't matter. You're the boss, you know the situation, and based on you, customize. Every project will be different. Every customization will be different. Say 17%, 87%, 20%, 80%, 30%, 70%. Well, it will be different. And that's why you always get to come up with a new tool, a new method of solving a problem. That's why you combine the adaptive and predictive life cycles, the way you feel it's right, and you kind of go ahead and mix them up. Useful when the requirements are uncertain and risky, well, because you have specifically the agile part will take care of that. Whenever you talk about things which are unclear, uncertain, we believe there are changes going to happen. No point in going full throttle with predictive. Always go with the agile part in that area. So you can always work with modularized. Well, you always create modulars. So you can see different teams will be working on that. Well, some part is predictive, some part is agile. You create modules, distribute modules, so you can get the job done. So while you're doing this job, please keep this in mind. These terms, we have to have a clarity where does it come into picture. When you talk about predictive or any project in the world, doesn't matter what you're doing. Every project is iterative. Every project. You talk about predictive project is iterative, agile projects are iterative, but incremental delivery only happens in agile. Let's quickly talk about it. Well, predict iterative means repeat, 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 same thing. Well, aren't you repeating? And a lot of activities are iterative in nature in case of predictive, like identification of stakeholder. Is it once? No, you keep doing it throughout the project. Well, team charter, evaluation of the stakeholder engagement assessment. You may have prepared a stakeholder theme, stakeholder engagement assessment matrix. Your assessment will change as the project goes through. Somebody who's a neutral person may become a very, very supportive person. Somebody who's a supporter may turn out to be a resistor. So things will change, and you got to continually evaluate it. So changes will be done. So a lot of things you will be working on, a lot of things will be repeated throughout the project. So even in case of predictive, you have lots of activities which are done on iterative way. And while you are dealing in phases, you will be doing the same, all the things from initiation to closing. Like, so we talk about in Six Sigma define phase. So we are doing an iterative job. We are initiating, we are planning, we are executing, monitoring, controlling, and closing that phase. Again, start again, measure phase. Again, iterative. It's also job. Any project you talk about is iterative in nature. Repeat, repeat, repeat. We'd always do that. Agile, by default, we know the process. We have a product backlog, we have a sprint backlog, we have sprint, we pull the item, the team will pull the item. Like rather before that, the product owner will prioritize the user stories first. The team will pull the item depending on how much they believe they can do the work in this sprint. So they pull the items, like have a definition of done, discussed what every user story that has to be done. They will then plan the work, complete the job, have a demo session, have a retrospective, and then again reprioritize, ask the product owner to reprioritize, pull the items again, start your next sprint. That's a iterative process. Same process has been repeated. But in case of predictive, you do only one single delivery, like your construction of a house, a road, or anything. You have one single delivery, which is not incremental. In Agile, it's all incremental. It's incremental at the level of a sprint. Because when you have a backlog, and this backlog says 100 user stories, first of all, these 100 user stories are prioritized in a decreasing order. The topmost priority are here, lowest priority is in a decreasing order. This is called story map. We'll see when they go to Agile part, it's called story map. Story map is more about prioritizing in a decreasing order. So the topmost priority, the second priority, third priority. So that story map is created by the product owner. So the product owner typically wants, these are my topmost priorities. So what the team does, the team will pull the most priority item in the sprint backlog, get the job done. So when the sprint gets completed, what you're creating is value, because whatever was the most important one, most desirable one, most critical ones, that's what you worked on. So you created value at the end of each sprint. So you're creating value which is meaningful for the customer because the product owner wants that to be done and you did it. It's a value which is created every time when you're doing a sprint. The work which has been done is the most prioritized user story. So that's why it is a value delivery happening at every sprint. And yes, when you have a complete feature developed, that feature is released. When you have releases, so you keep releasing in incremental portions, you keep delivering, and because you don't want customer to wait. So in Agile, you have both incremental and iterative, but in predictive, you only have iterative. Every project in the world will be iterative. Incremental will depend on what kind of, whether you're doing a Agile or predictive one. So that's pretty much the hybrid. So again, what percentage of predictive, what percent of Agile? No rule, no guideline. You're the boss. Decide it, and that's accomplished by tailoring. You do customization, fit as per your project. Do whatever you feel is right. You're the boss. Again, that's what it's going to talk about. Same thing what we discussed, but let's quickly go through this. Agile or iterative practices within the predictive framework are used as predictive in Agile. Do whatever you want. So, well, practically when the projects are initially discussed before you came into picture, so the need assessment was done, the high level planning was done by the business analyst, by the stakeholder. So initial planning was done. They would have discussed about the needs of the project, and according they could have even assisted the business analyst team would have also assisted. Well, probably this project is best suited for predictive method. This project is best suited for Agile method, or this project is best suited for your hybrid method. And we'll see some techniques. We'll in coming slides within this first lesson itself, we'll see some techniques which are meant for understanding and gauging whether this project is best suited for predictive, whether this project is best suited for only Agile or hybrid option. So we'll see those techniques. So that can also be used to determine whether this project will be driven through a predictive way agile way or a hybrid way. So those techniques, we should know what they are. So while you're doing this customization, because hybrid is all about customization, and customization is always new. So you're not having a absolute predictive, you're not having absolute agile. That's what you know, 100% of how predictive works, 100% how agile works, but customization will always be a unique one. And that's why it helps you create a new tool, basically to solve complex issues, because you will continue to do customization, tailor specific things based on this. So yes, it helps you to kind of your organization to be prepared for, like, when you kind of doing the projects, and it helps you to kind of deliver the value every time when you're doing the project. So given the needs of the project, you're always able to create a value. See, all in all, anyone can do a project, anyone can create an output. An output is not what we want. We want an output should be value delivery, not just anything. Anything created as a process is an output. But is an output good? I don't know. Why? Because it has to be acceptable to the customer. It should be valuable to the customer. So all this process goes through, like, basically whatever procedure we have within the organization to kind of decide on these methodologies, which, like, how this process will be handled. So all those methods will help your process projects to be carried out in proper way. So when we say change management methods, well, we're talking about that. Then the moment you talk about change management methods, we're only referring to the predictive part of it, because in agile you don't have a change management, no change request, nothing of that, no change control board, because there's nothing like that. It is meant to be changed. Bottom line, the method is like, so it will help. It's just, this one is pretty much referring to the predictive part of it. Now, I guess there's some question. Who decides which kind of approach to follow? Okay, whenever it's initially high level decided by them. So when your project is being, like, when you kind of sit down and collect the requirements, the project manager will discuss it. Then project manager will be able to decide it. Then initially, when the high level estimation is done in the beginning, based on the high level estimation needs of project, SOW, the statement of work, high level planning, they can decide, okay, this would best suited for a predictive, best suited for agile or a hybrid. But it's, when do you think you will be able to know whether it's because the core concept of going with predictive, agile, or a hybrid is completely dependent on, are the requirements clear? Is the customer clear about the requirement? And when would you get the requirements? You will get the requirement in the planning phase. The first thing you do is in the planning part is to sit down with the scope, with a product owner and or probably the customer sponsor, and ask for the requirement, collect the requirement, prepare the requirement traceability matrix. When I know your requirements, I can decide, okay, you're clear. If you're not, then practically I'll go with agile. So practically, it's more about the scoping part. I need to know the speak with the customer. So the decision to switch to which model will automatically be decided by PM. Should I be going 100% predictive, or should I be going with the agile approach? And moreover, in certain cases, because you know what kind of job you're doing, like website designing, you're bound to go with agile. When you talk about software development, you're bound to go with agile. And you talk about a project which is like construction based, you're bound to go with predictive one. But in certain cases, while you're doing the job, so my idea is clear. This project is more suited for predictive, more suited for agile. But the question comes in, when do I plug in the hybrid part? When I'm getting my requirements, I'm doing the project I'm planning my project as a predictive project manager. I can see that, okay, there are some things which are not clear. So this part needs to be handled with agile, this portion. So that's the job of a project manager, to decide on the approach that will be done. Software houses agile. So practically, we don't have a change control board, Mr. Hai. We don't have a change control board in case of predictive one. So when we talk about software, like, technically, companies which will be working on software will always be dealing with agile approach 100%. There's nothing like that. Well, the hybrid concept comes into picture. Well, ideally, somebody is supposed to do a predictive one, and some part of it is agile driven, which is not clear. So I will drive. So ideally, this decisioning will only come into picture where there's actually a predictive project is going to happen, because that's where you might want to say, okay, this project, I am clear about most of, like 80% I'm clear, and I can still run the predictive part, which is what I want to do. But 20% is not clear. So let me handle that portion through agile methods. But if it's a pure software development, we know by default, there's nothing called a CCB, which will be required. There's nothing called change control board. So you will not be required to have that unless because the nature of work will decide whether it's a pure predictive or agile. In agile, you would not talk even about these things. But if it's a pure predictive one, there, if we realize, okay, there are certain things not clear, you might want to drive through agile. And that's why PMI wants the project managers to have the knowledge of Agile. I hope that now you understand the linkages here. So if somebody in a software will simply be doing Agile methods only, but somebody who's dealing with the predictive part should know Agile, because it's quite possible you might want to be doing a predictive project, but some part is not clear. But now, if it's not clear, how can I drive it with predictive? There's no point in driving something when the plan is not clear, the requirements are not clear. How can I even plan for it? So that's why I will keep that portion aside. Okay, this portion is Agile. Let's unclear. Let's keep it. Rest is clear. Let's go with predictive. Let's not waste time. So that is why as a predictive project where the proper framework comes in picture is predictive only. I should have the additional knowledge for the portion which I would love to handle with Agile. Pure Agile, you'll not even think about doing it, honestly. So shifting or mixing up approach, not during implementation, Fatima, it's during the planning part, when you're collecting the requirements, because that's when you're collecting requirements. So that's when you will be able to get more clarity. First time, when you're having it, if you remember the entire framework we talked about, framework, initiation, there are only two things we talk about. Getting a project charter, that's when you approve. Identification of stakeholders. The first thing you do is planning, sit down with the customer for collecting requirement. And that's when I get clarity, whether it's clear or not. So practically when I'm doing the scoping part, I'll realize, okay, some part is not clear. Can't do the planning for this. Let's go with the Agile one. So ideally, Agile will, this portion will be handled through the people who are dealing with the predictive one. They will switch to some part of Agile in that case. So working only with the software, ideally, yes. Technically, I talk about somebody who's dealing with software industry, will ideally be only dealing with your Agile frameworks only, practically. So Scrum Master's job, because there is no role of a project manager. But if I talk about having a knowledge of project management, given the current world scenario, is this because it's required? It doesn't matter. So, if you talk about Agile is not the project management part. Agile is a way of doing. Please, you got to keep again this thing in mind. There's nothing called a project manager in Agile world. You may have a project manager in your software development company also who is driving projects and managing all those projects, all those discussions. But the only execution part is Agile. Only the execution part. Rest of the things will still be managed by project manager. Specifically execution part, that's Agile. So we will still be required. Yeah, we'll still be required to handle all those communications and all with stakeholders. What can you customize? Bottom line, you can customize everything. Everything. Project life cycle, development cycle, like life cycles, ways of working, which is the ground rules in Agile, knowledge management methods, change management methods, governance. Completely depends on the company to company, what kind of company you're working with. Team will sit down, will plan, will look at the company policies, and customization will be done. So my way of handling a change request in my company is different, and your procedures could be different. Why? Because you have different people. So tailoring is customization. Tailoring means customization. Like we go to a tailor to get a clothes stitched, and as per our fit. So we don't go people who are I will say still the traditional fit. Well, we always go to a tailor, go and tell this guy that I want, you want a perfect fit. So you will go and you go to a tailor and get a perfect cloth, which is fit, not like a one I will go and buy from the market. So tailoring is all about customization, just meant for you as per your requirements. So tailoring is more about customization. Is it clear, Mr. Samad? Quick one. Is it okay? All right, let's see. Some bit of questions before we get into the methods of deciding whether project is more suitable for predictive, agile, or hybrid. We'll just see a couple of them. But before that, again, it's a quick, this is more on the agile part. This slide is absolutely on the, I would say, absolutely on the agile part. So when you kind of dealing with the approaches and trying to see, you always try to understand which kind of development approach will be appropriate, and that will decide the number of cadence. The number and cadence, when you talk about this, you're talking about agile because that's 1 week, 2 week, 3 week. The sprint, that cadence is the time box. So you're talking about the project delivery from agile perspective here. The development approach and desired delivery cadence determine the project lifecycle and its phases. So how many releases you will be doing in case of the project delivery. So you may have to decide on the number of cadence required, number of sprints, number of releases required. So you may want to kind of discuss and have a discussion. The team can sit down and while you're trying to discuss and brainstorm which method will be more suitable. So you might want to understand how much of unplanned, it's unclear work is there. Basically, if I'm looking at the customer requirements and dealing with a hybrid kind of thing, so 80% is clear, 20% is not clear. I want to understand what percentage I can go with predictable. What is not clear, I will have to decide like how much time will it take, how many sprints it will take, and all that kind of thing. So you might want to understand how much of unplanned work is there, which is unclear right now. And given that, how does the team prefer to work? Well, given that you have people only with the predictive one, I may have to have more people who will be dealing with agile because there will be modules created. So you got to understand, do you have the required resources who have a mixed understanding of doing both the kind of job, which is predictive or agile, or your team only knows predictive or only knows agile. So you got to keep that in mind. Well, what cadence suit for a work? 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week cadence. Decide, because most common is 2 weeks. Rarely we use like one, like higher, but most common is 2 weeks. What does the customer want? Well, practically incremental delivery. Well, practically, if it's agile, you always talk about incremental delivery. Like you want to release, launch, release, and that's why you are in the business. You keep making money out of it. So what's our schedule? Well, and based on the needs of the customer, well, we might want to speed up. Say if the customer wants, like the customer given me a requirement that I need to launch this within a span of say 6 months, and the requirement the customer is asking for, well, based on the requirement, my team's assessment, we'll talk about the different ways how you assess the time it might take to to complete a project in case of agile. Agile estimation techniques are very different. We discussed 4 different methods during the discussion. Do you recall what were the estimation techniques we had in predictive? Estimation techniques in predictive. There were 4. They're same meant for time, the schedule, and the cost. They're same methods. 4 estimation techniques. Give me one quick second. 2D, no, estimation techniques. We were discussing the first 2 days or whatever, not NPV, estimation techniques for cost, for time, estimation. It was in the documentation also. Parametric, thank you. Parametric estimation, which is maths. Calculate the cost for one. If I'm going to build one wall, so calculate the cost for one wall and then multiply it with, say, we were making, say, 50 walls. So you get to know how much time or cost it will take. Historical data, perfect. That's called analogous estimation. That's historical data, which is OPA. Look at the previous one, OPA, and that will give you. Thank you. 3-point estimation. 3-point estimation is about, we look at the worst case scenario, the best case scenario, the most likely scenario. So we do this TO plus 4 times of TP, TM plus TE, not TE, but TP, pessimistic time divided by 6. So that is pretty much when we get to that part. And then third point, the 4th method was bottoms up estimation. You go to every single activity level and then you try to understand how much cost will be required, how many people, how many hours. So these are 4 different methods for estimation. With these will come as remember these were technically discussed in the Word document I was talking through, how predictive works. And this will come in future slides or when we go to the planning part. But please keep this in mind. These methods are estimation techniques used in predictive, and they're meant for both time estimation, which is schedule, and for the cost also. 4 methods, which will be, and which is, if you refer to the notes, it's all those 4 methods are given. Agile has a different way of estimation, and that works on something called Fibonacci series. We'll discuss it separately. Fibonacci series is how Agile works. T-shirt sizing, absolutely. T-shirt sizing, planning poker, story points, they're like all based on Fibonacci series. We'll talk about this, but all in all, the foundation is Fibonacci. We'll see it's a very interesting, very easy way to estimate the timelines and all. So, well, we got to understand based on the customer requirement. Customer says, well, I need this job to be done in 6 months. My team estimates based on the effort estimation technique. They feel it will take 8 months. If we got to understand how the customer wants it sooner. So if the customer wants sooner, then I have to deploy more resources to get the job done. I will tell the product owner, buddy, well, the way, whatever requirements you're talking about, it's going to take bare minimum 8 months. You're talking about 6 months. Well, we have to have more people in order to speed up. So we'll need to understand now what is a timeline crunch, because Agile is all about timeline. So we have to understand based on which I can plan how many resources, because we have those estimation techniques. And well, we'll also look at risk appetite. Risk appetite, how much of plus minus is okay? Well, because we may be Like we may plan for something but it may not work as per the plan. So how much of plus minus is okay is risk appetite. So that's what we want to keep in mind. Because see, if I'm like behind by by based on my schedule, the way I have planned, if I'm behind by say like 2 days, should I be concerned about it? Well, should I be escalating this that I'm behind by 2 days? If I'm behind by say 4 days, should I be escalating? What is the acceptance limit, which is the minimum where at least I can work with that. So all this risk appetite typically comes from the part of your predictive part when you talk about, because you do predictive one, but risk appetite in case of agile is by default covered. Why? Because there are only two risks to deal with. That this guy will continue to make changes, and we may continue to work without getting paid. So we are covered in case of risk. Honestly, agile is much more safer than the predictive one, because risk is by default covered. Why? Because you have a product backlog, and that's all. We are supposed to do this job. So if you want to add something, I'm going to ask you for more time. If you want to add 20 more user stories, I'll say it may take 2 extra sprints. So give me the money for these 2 extra sprints, and I'll add this with the user stories in the backlog. We can add it. But if you can't give me the 2 extra sprints, then we'll remove it. So my risk is covered. That's one. Because we have the customer cannot keep, we are saying customer can make changes. So it will be very risky if customer can keep changing. Till the time I'm getting paid, I don't have a problem. If I'm getting paid for that, that's a good business. That's a good thing. But if I'm not getting paid, then I have to control. Otherwise, this guy will never stop. This guy will can make us work for all life long and will not end the project because, okay, now change this, now change that. That's not going to get over. So, well, we have control here. And second way, why my risk is covered? Why? Because I work with smaller cycles. I don't have to wait for like 6 months. I'm like, if I know my product owner or even the respective client who's getting the job done is very, very finicky, very it's not like it's not doesn't have that kind of patience. So I might want to go for 1 week sprint. I'll not even work for 2 weeks sprint because I want to minimize my damage. What's max? I can do the job for 1 week and realize this guy doesn't like my work. That's it. I'll rather, if the guy, when I'm during my conversation, we find this guy is very, very difficult to handle, and it's very like a troublemaker kind of thing. I will not even go for 2 week sprint. It's like wasting time for 2 weeks, then realizing this guy says, no, it's bad. So I want to make sure with these kind of clients, I will be going for 1 week. That's my risk appetite. And this guy is very quite relaxed. Like I won't say like he's completely unclear. So he's very most of it's clear. I might want to even go for 4 week sprint because it's not too much of a change. He's not too finicky. He's not going to make too much of change. So I may plan for 4 weeks and do the job. So for the sprint, for rather than 1-2 week sprint, I may even plan for 4. But if this guy is too finicky and too like a big troublemaker, I'll rather keep 1 week. So maximum damage I can do is 1 week damage rather than 4 week damage. So I need to understand the risk involved in the system. So which is, thank God, we at least have this mechanism. We can keep any sprint between 1 to 4 weeks depending on the risk appetite. Well, given the scenario based on my interaction with the product owner, I can understand. And even at times, product owner will behave awkwardly because the customer who is getting the job done may be pushing this product owner. So we can set those timelines. If this guy is very demanding and like nasty, I'll rather keep 1 week sprint to safeguard myself. So that's the risk appetite part. And yes, our sprints, yeah, bottom line, that's you're talking about agile. So all in all, general ways of kind of exploring within the team, well, what kind of project will work, and this is all agile related. So I'm not sure why they trying to explore with all things are related. This says development approach, probing questions. Well, these are not probing questions. I'm not sure why they call it as a probing questions. Well, these are all related to agile. By default, don't talk about these things in case of predictive. You don't talk about sprints. You don't talk about the incremental value and all that. Bottom line, it's nothing to do with your predictive one. But all are questions related to agile. Having said that, we have to keep in mind some techniques. The techniques name, that's it. Well, and that's what we will be talking about here. So you got to know that these methods are meant for having a clarity whether this project is more suited for predictive or agile. Second one is a much more popular model, but this is like a very lightweight model based on discussion. So it's a basic, very subjective model, this one. So here we try to understand, well, if the requirement from the customer is crystal clear, and we also have a clarity about the technology, that whatever we got to do it. So we should go if the clarity that we have, because customer requirements are clear, and we have also very like a pretty good clarity and control over the technology or the method, the procedure we have to use. We have done it so many times. We will go with predictive. This area is for predictive. When you have customer requirements are clear and you have tons of experience, like I have done so many constructions. Like I'm into construction. I've done 2-story buildings, 3-story buildings, 4-story, 20-story buildings. I've done so many times. I've experienced. So in the requirements I get, and I have done this job so many, there's nothing better than predictive. But now we get into the situation where some part is clear and some part is not. And because some part is clear, we'll be handling with predictive. Well, things which will be changing and exploring, we have some part which is obviously, because as the requirement will change, my understanding, my approach will also be modified. This is where we talk about when this is the kind of zone, some part is clear, some is not. We will be going with the hybrid approach. Then we come to a portion where the requirements are, well, like from the beginning itself, we know this guy has no clarity. Well, he or she wants something to be done, but probably doesn't have the clarity where. And yes, probably as we meet, we brainstorm, we discuss, and this guy will get more clarity, and we move on. So it gets more. We again have a discussion. We move on. So we learn. Basically, we're developing as we move forward. As we move forward, we're learning. We're doing it. We're learning. We're doing it. So that's where we have, like, because things are changing as the work goes on. This is a pure agile kind of thing. Now the only section which we're talking about is this one, which is where it says nothing should, like, there is, you should not have a yes approach for everything. There are certain projects we should fundamentally say no. Well, it's not that you have to say yes to everything. And this again, against the value of a project manager. Pretty much, if you go refer to the PMI code of ethics, it is technically wrong. Well, and what I'm talking about, which projects we're talking about here, you've never done a job in that kind of industry. Well, for example, you asked me to do a AI implementation. Have I done AI implementation? No. Well, should I be saying yes to it because I can get an outside, like I can let me get the business? Well, because it is I'm getting a project. I can always go out in the market and get somebody who knows AI, get a resource from the market and get the job done. No, sir, that's wrong. You have no idea. You may not be the one who is an expert in that area, but do you know anything about it? Any A, B, C about AI implementation? Have you been a part of it? If you're not the one driving it, but do you have understanding and knowledge about it? Or you're going to be depending on somebody, some third person who's going to come, you will going to hire this guy, and this guy is going to tell you what to do. Well, that's wrong. It's unethical on the part of a project manager to commit to such a project. It's like keeping the sponsor, and ideally you're not the right guy to be doing this job. Well, it's better off to have somebody who's more skilled enough. It's wrong. It's wrong. Why? Because it's ethically wrong. That's nothing wrong. Well, would people do this in the market? Yes. Well, even if I am not the one who has knowledge, I will go out in the market and say, okay, I need so and so resource. I'll get a resource. I'll get the job done. But that's wrong. Because now you completely depend on that resource, and this resource that you've hired can mislead you because you have no idea how it's supposed to be done. So don't commit to something where you're not a local domain expert. Well, you may not be expert. At least you should have fundamental knowledge. You should have experience of doing it. So typically PMI also treats this as a misleading or a unprofessional, unethical activity for you to get into a project, lead a project where you have no expertise. You don't have an experience. So those are something which, because see, at times people are in dire state of getting a project, getting some business. They might end up saying yes to everything, but again, on ethical grounds, it's like cheating somebody. You're not the right guy. Well, it should be somebody who has done it in the past and should be ideally handling that project and not you. So it says avoid. Everything should not be, you shouldn't be saying yes. So it's, well, otherwise it's absolutely right. But again, it's more from the ethical standpoint, it's wrong. It's wrong to be committing to something which you have no idea, because then I'm solely depending on that guy. And plus I have, we should say no to something which we have absolutely no idea, no experience. Let me can I tell you, I'll be honest, like, this is about not more than like 2 months old conversation with one of the universities here. And these guys wanted me to conduct a Six Sigma training for them. And along with Six Sigma training, they wanted me to go ahead and take up a training for supply chain management. Well, a lot of topics of supply chain management are technically related to lean concepts. And if I pick up the syllabus like this guy, well, I had a confirmed deal. I had absolutely confirmed deal practically. So I said, okay, you teach them Lean Six Sigma, and once you're done with that, the same set of people will be going through the supply chain like sort of training, and then I don't do supply chains. So these guys, I said, look, sorry, I'm not the guy. I'm never like who is like I do know what is supply chain. I have fair bit of idea, but I read this stuff because I wanted to explore. I read a lot of stuff. This is just one more extra book I may have read, and I just explored a lot of things because being into Six Sigma, it's good to know different industries. So I know it, but I'm not the right guy. They said, no, it's very like the topics we have gone through. The lean topics are absolutely similar to like, I said, yeah, it's similar, but it's not the same. And like, have I done it before? Big question. Have I taken up a training of supply chain before? The answer is no. I don't want to be doing experimentation with this. Is unethical. And I said, buddy, if you want to get this job done, get it from somebody else because I am not going to commit. It's unethical on my part to commit for something. Well, it is similar, and I can definitely refer to the books. I can take it up, but will I have the same kind of confidence delivering the training when the way I would have it with Lean Six Sigma? The answer is no. It will be wrong and unethical practice. So I said, buddy, well, this is a joint, it's a package. The one who has to, who is going to do it, like who will be doing, one guy will be doing it. I said, it's better off saying no to it. So guys, so sorry with all due respect, I am not taking this. I'm not coming to this. It's wrong. See, it's not a matter of like getting money, but you will not be able to justify yourself. Every time you commit to something, it would be good. It had been like, say, it is absolutely okay here. And we'll talk about this. Topics will also come in the risk part, positive risk. I'll come to this topic here. When you talk about risk management here, and in case of planning part, there will be talk about risk management strategy. This could have been a positive risk management strategy. If I wanted to make money, I can contact my friends who are into corporate trainings of this supply chain management and who also know Lean Six Sigma. So this guy could have done it, and I could have introduced, and I could have like had a share. And this is what is up. We say it's one of the risk management strategy. So I want to gain from this. So I could have introduced and got this like some sort of share on that thing. So this is what would have been fine. And yes, if I really want to commit to this going forward, let this guy conduct the training, and I can be there as a probably a free resource. I'll be visiting at least once. I should see how it's done. Probably I'm not the one leading it, but I could be one of the associate helping this guy who's doing the training. I should have been a part of it. I should have seen how it's done. I should not be doing an experimentation with these people. They're paying for that. Bottom line, it's wrong. It's unethical. So I simply turned it down. So it was good. I felt good about it because it's the right thing to do. So that all in all, there are certain things we should not commit, and that's what it is. So pretty much that's all. Pretty much if you know the requirements are clear, go with predictive. Somewhat clear, somewhat not clear, agile and hybrid. And if it's unclear, then you're looking for discovery, then you go with agile approaches. This is more on the discussion-based subjectivity, but a better model, which is we call as Stacy model. Like this one we are talking about, the Stacy model we're talking about. The other one we'll be talking about suitability filter. That is very much common. Let me kind of show it to you what is suitability filter. It looks like this. And this one is a questionnaire, a survey, which is conducted within the organization with the key stakeholders whom you believe are like all the stakeholders which are related to your project, and they will be participating in survey. So now let me kind of show you where this information is, because the survey has certain questions, and the survey questions are already like you have the material with you. All I have to show you where the material is. So by the way, I guess we have all the people, everyone here. I will be sharing today some additional material with you all, some additional material. So that's not there. I will be putting in the day 5 because today is day 5. In the day 5 trainer notes, I'll be adding this. We already have Rita Mulke, 11th edition. I have gone through and scanned through Rita Mulke. This has gone into more of a quick snapshot of this. There are less questions now, but it's more of the like word file that I created, which is like a how predictive works. So now the 11th edition has become in more of a transcript rather than a question bank. There are questions there, but less question, very, very less questions. So I will be sharing Rita Mulki 10. This is complete question bank, a complete question bank. So, well, read this one first. Whenever you do that, read this Rita Mulki, because this is like a script, the way we have written it for the predictive part. So read Rita Mulki, and this, because this has very less questions in there. I just checked out, scanned through that, and this is a complete question bank. So solve this one. I will be sharing Rita Mulki in today's trainer notes one. Apart from that, somebody did ask for the flow chart, if you have it. So this is a pretty good one, which I can definitely recommend. This is pretty good one. So just check them out there when you get time. These are all, and you have to kind of deal with it by doing this Zoom, and you have to deal with it. But again, it's a pretty good one. It will give you all the details, well, everything. So just scan this. This is everything, how it starts and everything is there. So all documentation, what is created, when it's created, and all that, everything related to complete predictive framework. No agile, it's all predictive, because the framework comes into predictive only. So this is what I got from their website there. So this is, just check this out, all process, group process guide. This is one which you have there. It's all about that. So what do you do? When do you do that? It's all the processes there. So just check this out. So I'll share this one. So two things talked about. The Rita Mulki, this is the one. This is the 10th. This is complete question bank. If you look at it, this is all about practicing. So read Rita Mulki 11 first for getting the understanding. This is all about questions. That one has very less question. I just can't through it. It's better, honestly. That one is better. Why? Because that's the latest one. But if we talk about that, has become more of a transcript. But quick snapshot, read it, get ready, just quickly scan, and then go and give your exam, that kind of thing. But this is more on the exam question bank. There is a lot of questions in there. This one has lots and lots of questions. So you can keep solving this question. They have an answers also, answer key, explanation. This is for every phase. They will explain something. Then there will be questions, and there will be answers for that. Exercise and then answers. It's pretty neat. This is a complete question bank. So go and try them out. And they're like lots of, it's a pretty good question bank. So I'll share this Rita Mulki 10 today. I'll share this Ricardo Vargas, this the group. And yes, there was answer key. Well, I'll rather just sharing one by one. I'm going to share all the answer key, though. So we'll complete answer key that we have. So I'm going to share because you have all the questions with you. First of all, before you check this answer key, this is all for entire thing. So I don't want to be kind of breaking it down. You have the complete question bank. This is the complete answer key for the questions I have shared. So I'll share all these 3 documents today itself. And when we end the session today, I will share all of these 3 in the day. That's what just wanted to talk about before we get there. Now, quick one. Where do we get to see this suitable? I hope there are some messages in the chat. Yeah, absolutely. This is all. So when you talk, is there any charts for the task? No. Well, I say there would not be a task related charts there. It will be more about, you have to read the books, and it's more about, you read that, you will be able to understand, because task related charts will be not applicable. Diana, they are absolutely 100% applicable. They are still the same questions. Yeah, it's still 100% same. So it's absolutely applicable. Now, quick one, do practice them definitely. Yes. Again, going back to your exam prep books, the ones I shared. So this Agile Practice Guide, if you go and scan through this Agile Practice Guide, you will see that suitability filter, I guess some slide 128. Yeah, that's the one. So these are some questions. They are used. People do ask this question from the relevant stakeholders, and these are survey questions. So they are generally, a survey question is created, like questionnaire group is created. People will be giving a score on a scale of 1 to 10, and then take an average ratings here. So their questions will be right here. So these are the questions written in there. Look, if you refer to this, these are same questions: buy-in, trust, decision-making, delivery, criticality. There are 9 questions there in there. So if you look at it, these are 9 questions, and they have picked up what is the question here. It's all given. If you read the Agile Practice Guide, it's in the downloadable stuff. So please read them out. These are set 9 questions people use, and based on the people, whatever score people would give. So these are 9 questions all given here. So all in all, in this chart, you don't see the 9 questions there. But again, when you get the survey done with this 9 questions, people will give a rating of 7, 5, 10, whatever people give. We will get an average rating done. Now, when you get the average rating done, let's see how do you read it. Now, so what it tells me, when this survey was conducted, when this survey was done, people gave an average rating to this, some access related thing, to something like a 3. This falls in 3. Average rating for buy-in was given again like 3. This was given again, like, I guess, like 3 or 2, whatever we call this. This has gone slightly outside. So whatever this circle is for a 4. So this was given a 4. This was given a 2. Looks like this was given a 5. This was given like 2 or 3, whatever it is. But if I see most of the area, most of the points are falling into agile section. So this project is more suitable for agile, rather than predictive. So, well, this is how you figure out where the average rating is. Most of the points are falling in. It is like one point is just going outside this one, which is into hybrid. And this is still the majority points. The project is more suitable for an agile project. Yeah, by the way, let me see what was there. There is an example in the agile practice guide, the one which we were talking about. And please see, what do you interpret from this? Which kind of project does it suit? Like 128. Let me just move to 128. Well, looking at this is the same chart we're seeing there. I guess we'll see an example chart also. You decide and tell me, what project do you call this one? Which one is it suitable for? How about, okay. This is again looking at this. How about this one? If the average scores are here, what project would you be driving it with? Where does it, based on the average scores, these lines have been drawn. Where does it fit in? What kind of projects? A predictive project, absolutely yes. It's more suitable for a predictive project because most of the points are in the predictive. Well, you've got 1 point in the child section, and you've got 1 point in the hybrid section, but most of the points, 7 points, are outside in the predictive section. So this is more suitable for predictive. If I just go back here and see this one, would you call it which one? Predictive, agile, hybrid? It's typically yes, agile. So where the points lies, the maximum points, that's more suitable for that project. So bottom line, you have those standard questions written, and when people will answer, people will give the score. We'll take the average score to decide which project does it suit. So, okay, quick one. Is that okay and clear, those two methods? So we have the first one was your Stacy chart, and then this one is the suitability. This is more relevant, honestly. The Stacy one is just discussion. This is like meaningful discussion. You have to be getting a score from there. Good to know. Practically, nobody's going to ask you for that. But again, you should know what this is meant. And this is just nothing. It just tells you, well, if you are, who is surveyed, and the people who are project team, the stakeholders, the current relevant stakeholders with your project. Relevant stakeholders, all people, everyone who's a relevant stakeholder related to the project. Everyone that you can identify the stakeholders, all relevant stakeholders will be interviewed. Okay, so this is just we already know this element. All in all, what it tells you, whenever your projects are predictive, the iterative approach and incremental approach is less. When you move towards from predictive to adaptive, your iterative and incremental approach increases. Yes, but that's how we already know that, because this is more on the, well, any which ways you don't have an incremental delivery here, but you have iterative, but it's less. It's not that frequent. But here it's like happening every sprint. So iterative is very fast. Incremental is very fast. That's pretty much under. So as you move from predictive to adaptive, your incremental and iterative approach increases, gets bigger and bigger. This video, I guess you already have it, and let's watch this one. We already know this one, I guess, because I've shared this one. But still, we'll watch.
The word iterate,
I hope
it comes from the Latin iterare, meaning to repeat.
Is it audible to everyone? Okay, yeah, that looks good.
Thus, an iterative way of working repeats itself over and over, optimizing itself each time it does. In an iterative process, work flows into the product backlog from minimum business increments and from the release roadmap. The product backlog is where the team collects all the work flowing to the team. The product owner prioritizes the product backlog, signaling to the team what work is the most important. At the start of each iteration, the team pulls the work they plan to do from the product backlog into the iteration backlog. This is a key point. The team pulls the amount of work it thinks it can get done during the iteration, not the product owner, team manager, or stakeholders. The iteration is the time box around the team's work. The team starts with the iteration planning and ends with the iteration review. Agile teams usually choose between an iteration length of 1 to 4 weeks, with 2 weeks being the most common choice. Regularly, the team meets for a coordination meeting, also called a stand-up or scrum. The stand-up helps the team coordinate and work in a quick and informal way. The iteration review ends the iteration. This review has 2 parts. It reviews the product and solution built in the iteration and the process, how the team worked together, and what got in their way. In the demo, the team showcases what they accomplished in the iteration. The demo focuses on value delivered and feedback from stakeholders. In the retrospective, the team takes time away from their busy schedule to reflect on how they worked together in the iteration. What aspects made them go faster and be successful? What aspects got in their way of reaching their goals? The team looks both internally, inside the team, and externally, outside the team. The team also lays out a plan to fix some of the points that got in their way during the next iteration. When an iteration is complete, we go back and start over with the iteration planning and pulling work from product backlog into the iteration backlog during the next planning. The Agile iterative process contains a series of artifacts and ceremonies. Artifacts are the objects produced within an iteration. Ceremonies are activities that take place during an iteration. For example, the product backlog is an artifact. It's the complete list of work required to create the product. It collects all the work flowing to the team. The iteration backlog is another artifact. That's the list of work to be completed in the current iteration, and it's supposed to be done in the order determined by the team. There are a couple more artifacts that aren't shown on our diagram. User stories capture a description of a feature from an end-user perspective. A user story describes the type of user, what they want, and why. A burn-down chart is a graphic representation of how quickly the team is working through user stories. We actually touched on most of the ceremonies earlier. These include iteration planning, the coordination meeting, the iteration demonstration, or demo, and the iteration retrospective.
All right, so we already know that video, but again, quick check, good reiteration. This is all about this only. Okay, quick one. We already know this elements, but again, we will see a quick quick recap of these basic terms we already know here. And I'm sorry, it'll be repeated multiple times. So, well, we talk about the Scrum methods that we'll be talking about. The Scrum is the most commonly used Agile framework. There are 50 plus frameworks. Well, we're kind of deal with Agile. Well, we are only dealing with Scrum because that's what we have PMI has alliance with. So Scrum is what whatever you have seen is all about Scrum. So we have a Scrum Master. We can have a Senior Scrum Master, which we know primarily. So we have these are responsible for the ceremonies. Ceremonies are all the meetings are called ceremonies, and we know iterations are called sprints. So pretty much we know all that part already. So basic stuff, again, nothing out here. We'll see different kind of ceremonies that we important to understand. So what are the different kind of ceremonies? We will be quickly checking them out. So this is page 1, and there is some more in the page 2 also. So what is sprint planning? That we know already. Why? Because look at this. Team collaborates with the product owner to plan the work for the current sprint. So we have a product backlog. The team is sitting with a sprint backlog. So we'll ask, okay, why don't you go and prioritize? So this guy will prioritize the item, and then they will go and look at the items they can work on the current sprint. They will pull those items. So this planning which is happening, that's called sprint planning. And during this part, because it's a ceremony, this job has to happen. If it's not done, when the Scrum Master will have a problem. So because that's a ceremony, agile practice. So some Scrum Master facilitates this job. So this job must be done. You have to follow this process diligently. Now, this is very important one. Please keep this in mind. You people get questions on this one. Why? Because of this. We'll talk about this. So daily scrums. When you say daily scrum? Daily scrums are daily meetings, but technically daily meetings always. But please keep this in mind. In daily scrum, we discuss 3 things only. We discuss what did we complete since yesterday, what are we planning to do today, and what were the impediments we faced, like what were the challenges we faced yesterday. So how did we solve them? So what was the work completed, what is supposed to be completed, and what were the challenges we faced, and how did we deal with it yesterday. So we will be able to kind of take care of that today. Bottom line, these things are discussed. We do not discuss any targets, goal, and we'll talk about some bit of quantification is done, what percentage of user stories are completed. We will look at the term called velocity, and all those things will come into picture. So the number, like when we talk about this, is all about the quantification, the number, the reporting stuff. We will not discuss anything in here, like what is the rate, how far are we, how many sprints, and all that part. We will not discuss it. It's more about the work which is going to happen every day. Daily Scrum happens daily. People discuss these things, and it's not a status meeting. So nothing is discussed in terms of like the velocity of the process. And basically, we'll talk about those things, what are velocity and all. What is we don't discuss the burn up charts. We don't discuss the burn down charts. We don't discuss any of these things. So daily Scrum is just for discussion. Sprint review, we already know. We also call it demo. So at the end of the sprint, we have that. So team is there, product owner is there, all the stakeholders are there. And we try to go and show what we have done in this sprint, what we have done, and we want to take your feedback. So demo is for making sure we have a sprint demo, sprint review, what we call. We are showcasing this is what we have done, and please let us know you're happy or not. Well, because you're based on your definition of done, DOD, we have done the job, and you let us know, is it okay, acceptable or not? We know the sprint retrospective will happen after this. So this is after this, we have a team meeting only team, not the product owner. And we'll discuss, well, what went well, what did not went well. So basic same stuff. These are all ceremonies. Meetings are ceremonies. A fancy name, that's it. Nothing else. Some more. Product strategy meeting. That's going to happen in the beginning itself. And you decide, okay, that's what my plan is. We have a 6 months plan. We're going to do a release 1, release 2, release 3, release 4. That's what my plan is. So we talk about the product vision. This is how we want to go and launch it. It's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big game changer. So the product owner shares the product vision, what we want to develop, why we want to develop, what will be the benefits, and practically how does it tie up with the business goal. So this is typically done in the in this with practically. This is more about the first meeting which will happen. Yeah. Okay, there's a question from Mr. Ma. During sprint retrospective, Scrum Master. Well, Scrum Master will facilitate all the sessions. Scrum Master is supposed to facilitate everything. So all ceremonies has to be facilitated. This guy is just there as a facilitator. Well, obviously wants to, is response. This must happen. So yes, it's there. This guy is there. Not the product owner. Not the product owner. This is important one. Well, why? Because the previous one was important. So does this one. When this is daily stand-up, or we simply call it a stand-up meeting. This is a status meeting. Although it says daily, it's not necessarily daily. You don't sit down and you don't want to discuss like daily your burn up charts, burn down charts, velocity, numbers. No, it's going to be too frequent. We don't get into too much of numbers, reports, and all that. So it is very short-term meeting, like 5 to 15 months meeting. We go plan, well, we understand what is the rate at which we are working out velocity. It can be anything. It can be like based on needs. It's more about based on needs. Well, you can set up weekly also, but again, it can be based on needs. It's not daily. So it is meant also as daily stand-up, but please keep this in mind. It can be simply called a stand-up and it's not daily. This meeting is for numbers. This meeting is for understanding how many user stories are pending in the backlog. What is and how many sprints are pending here. So based on the plan, how many sprints we have to, at what rate we have to complete. Say, for example, we got 50 user stories left here. And here we got 3 more sprints to cover this 50 user stories. So I know that 50 divided by 3 is what I have to maintain per sprint. These many user stories should be at least finished. Otherwise, we will not be able to finish this job in the 3 sprints. Bottom line, that quantification, numbers, reports, that's not supposed to be done daily. So that's why this is the status meeting, but that's not daily. Backlog refinement, we pretty much know. Well, at the end of every sprint, we will ask this product owner to reprioritize, because every time a sprint gets completed, we will ask the product owner to reprioritize the backlog. And in the end, the project retrospective happens. We have a sprint retrospective, but in the end of the project, it's like a lessons learned document sort of thing. This is where the team will discuss the entire project. What went well, what did not went well. So you will be able to kind of see a difference there between what went. So here it's more about the entire project. What went. So we will talk about, we'll appreciate people. We'll talk about the things which were failures, which did not work fine. So practically you will be seeing it's more of a lessons learned document, and which will help us to understand what things we will have to keep in mind for future projects there. Daily Scrum is a daily one. That's a daily one. Daily Scrum is daily meeting, but that's not status meeting. Daily stand-up or simply the stand-up is a status meeting. So the only this is not about the what did we complete yesterday, what is the no, that's not. So please keep this the two things. Let's keep them next to it. This was daily Scrum. We look at the verbiage. This is daily Scrum and this is daily stand-up. Let's keep it that way. Let's kind of talk about this. Let me just make it parallel thing so we can relate with it. Daily Scrum. So first of all, this is going to happen daily. What do you discuss in there? Well, basic work. What did we complete yesterday? What are we planning to do today? And what were the challenges we faced yesterday? That's it. No numbers, like no numbers, no metrics to be discussed. Here, it's not necessarily daily, not necessarily. And yes, it is like a technically a status meeting where you discuss the numbers. Yeah, we can, but we have to understand the terminology. So we can call it as a follow-up meeting, but we have to relate the terminology because you got to keep in mind the terminology because you could see a question and there we have to be specific about this terminology. So daily Scrum is we are going to remember as daily Scrum and daily stand-up will be this one. Project retrospectives will come into OPA. Yeah, absolutely. This is like, see, this is in the end, when you kind of do this job, you discuss about we discuss what were the hits, great things. What were the things which we really did make a big blunder there? What were the things which we have to keep in mind for future? It's more about rewards and recognition. You appreciate people for the good job. And it's more about like ending the project. So yes, you have more of a lessons learned. This will help you for future projects. So this is done once only at the end of the project. Once only. It will be an OPA, but we'll have, it's more like a lesson. We're trying to review how did the entire project go. Is it okay with everyone? Differences and all? Then he make specific formats. Well, no formats for Maha. Again, in case of when we talk about these formats, like primarily, see the discussion is going to be, but we don't have the templates and documentation and all that in case of agile part. Well, unless but there's nothing like that. Well, we could see variations there. It's absolutely fine. People will discuss. Do we prepare? We hate to have documentation as such. So we'll just try to, yes, we'll have something which is could be collected in any kind of format. And this will vary from company to company, but not like relatable with a predictive one. That is exhaustive one. This is you don't go that level here. It's just basic. No formats for this one. Primarily, at least not. Okay, let's talk about, oh, well, this is the end. Okay, perfect. So we're done with the initiation part and congratulations to everyone. Well, let's just go and please try those questions of the predictive, like first one. And you already, like, I'll be sharing the answer key for all the questions, all the lessons. So we'll be starting with lesson number 3 now. This is the hardcore, this is the heavyweight. And this is why we primarily studied that, the predictive part of this, because this is the important, I wouldn't say like not others are not important, but tricky questions. All the framework related questions are here. So all that we do. So we did the scope planning, the requirement traceability matrix, the work breakdown structure, the scheduling and all that stuff we talked about. Everything will come here. Lesson number 3 is the biggest lesson, will take more time. Lesson 4, 5, 6 is going to finish in no time because execution, monitoring, controlling is done for what you plan. Bottom line. And closing is just as one process like close. That's it. So starting now with the first thing, we will start with the planning the project. So let's kind of talk about what do we do here. Well, so you have some, in case of predictive, pretty much you have to, like when you've done the initiation, you have to, as a project manager, to make plans, because what you make plans, you will be executing those plans, you'll monitor and control, and you close. So that's what you do when you've done the planning part. Now, in case of Agile, we have, like we don't have anything like that, by the way. We don't have, because my job is all about the backlog, like the same story. So nothing on here. It's just about the team has, we have a backlog which acts as scope. We can't use the word scope, but that's going to act as scope. So we have a big risk because we say customer can change, but we have controlled, we have safeguarded ourselves by saying, okay, you give me more time, more money, more business. That's not a problem. But yes, if you're not ready to give that, please remove the less priority items there. Equivalent, do that what you want to. If you want to add work for 2 weeks, well, remove the work for 2 weeks also. I will replace, I don't mind. We will be working on plans. And our plans part is, we've got, please, I would love to kind of see, and I'll show you the list of these baselines, but let's kind of quickly talk about it. Baselines. How many baselines do we have? How many baselines? No one. It's 3. Yes. 3 baselines. Scope, cost, and schedule. We haven't been studying that document. Please, I have purposefully written that 4-page document. Please memorize this. It's not going to work this way. You have to understand the framework. The reason we wrote that, because it will give you a clear idea. Baselines are only 3. The Excel file had all that, like we kind of related with it. So primarily, again, 3 baselines, and rest are subsidiary plans. What like to when you deal with it, what are the subsidiary plans? Every other plan, like, so we have got with the scope management plan, your schedule management plan, your cost management plan, you've got your quality management plan, procurement management plan, everything stakeholder management plan. All those plans we had are called subsidiary plans. Why? Because these plans will merge and make a project management plan, which is the master plan. And there are some additional components. Let's see a quick list of all of these. One quick snapshot. Have a look at this. So we got what these are subsidiary plans, the scope management plan, the requirements management plan. So we collect the requirements, schedule management plan, the cost management plan, quality management plan, resource management plan, communication management plan, risk management, procurement management, stakeholder. So these are all subsidiary management plans. They will be merged together and will become a master plan called project management plan. We have 3 baselines: scope baseline, schedule baseline, cost baseline. These are 3 baselines. Any of these baselines get violated, you will have to have change request, which will be audited by change control board. If they approve, great job. Your baselines, your plans will get impacted. They will be updated. Your baselines will be updated. If they are rejected, and every change request will be documented in a change request, like a change log here. So yeah, cost, scope, and time, like basically, yeah, schedule part. Now, they're additional components. They are not a part of project management plan. They're additional plans, but not a part of project. Project management plans are here, like related to all the components, but some additional plans are also there, which we talk about. Let's quickly talk about these. Change management plan, how the changes will be managed, the change control board, change request. That's it. Configuration management plan for artifact management. Artifacts, when you do that, well, when you maintain like baseline, say cost baseline, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, the nomenclature, how do you keep this nomenclature? That's the configuration. What is the company's procedure? Schedule 2, kind of like procedure 2, will have the nomenclature done. We'll see the WBS, where there will be WBS created, work breakdown structure will be created, and every activity will be labeled as 1.1, like 1.1.1, something like so. Some coding structure will be there. How do you do this coding will be decided as per the company's configuration management plan. We'll just talk about this. Another something called a baseline. We'll talk about that. Let's park it for a moment. Let's kind of look at the quick one here. Project life cycle, pretty much we know we have predictive, agile, and whatever we can deal with it. Development approach, you can adopt any kind of this. So project life cycle will vary depending on what kind of project you're working on. But again, development approach could be any of these: predictive approach, or develop like for that matter, agile or hybrid approach. Management reviews, which is again the change control board, which comes into picture. The only thing which is different here, one element which we need to talk about is one more baseline. Default, you have this extra baseline. That's an extra baseline, which is called performance measurement baseline. Now, what is that performance measurement baseline? So whenever projects are initiated, and we know that we will have some baseline, some targets set, this is the maximum time we'll take, this is the maximum cost, we'll have some sort of cost. Like, for example, my project should complete in like 180 days. My cost will be like, say, the $100,000 is my cost. You could have baseline created. We'll work on this one. The maximum, okay, just so I'm going to keep asking, what is the maximum value of the cost baseline? There's a name, there's a term for maximum value of the cost baseline. Highest point in the case of cost baseline. Anyone recalls? Highest point in the cost baseline. There's a term. Highest point of cost baseline. So if we say this is the start and this is the maximum value, this is the maximum value, that's cost baseline. No, that's the highest point. This is where we have cost baseline, maximum value. But what do we call this? Maximum point. This is called BAC, budget at completion. BAC is the highest point on the cost base. It's all in the Word document. Please scan through that Word document. It's purposefully created so we can have a quick scan of all the required information. Please do memorize that. That's very important. That's the only thing I would recommend. Please memorize that. Now, coming to this, if I talk about schedule, it's like 180 days, 6 months project. This is like 100,000. Well, I know it's not going to be 100% like same, like 180 days. I will not be like exactly spending 100,000. So some bit of plus minus is expected. It will always be there. So some sort of agreement will always be there, which is well based on, well, when your performance is, some bit of plus minus is agreed upon, like plus minus 10%. That can be agreed upon. Plus minus 10% can be there. So whatever you have, like plus minus 10%, I can say minus 10%. Well, that means you project will, whatever is less. 180 minus 18, how much is that? 168, I guess, or what? 162. How much is it? 162. I guess so. And no, 180 minus 18, 10%, I guess. 180, yeah, that's how it's going to be. And 180 is here, and plus 10% is 198. So I believe if I go with there's a plus minus allowed. So which is basically a baseline is basically discussed like, so you have some, because you know some bit of tolerance will be there. You cannot get exactly there. So yes, if you have set a baseline and your project in the end actually falls in the range of this plus minus. So well, if and help me and you help me understand, will you exactly get that 180? No, right? Will not get exactly 180. It'll be something plus minus. It'll not be 100% exactly at 180 days. Some bit of plus minus will be there. So if I have set a 180 as this thing, so there is a some bit of plus minus which is allowed. And that is where we say it's okay. The project manager has done a fairly good estimation. This estimation, 180 days, is a fairly good estimation taken by the project manager. Let me, if I say I completed this project in 170 days, it's still falling in the range. It's acceptable to me. Well, it's done early, which is good. Would you be happy as a company if I complete this project in 170 days while you expected to complete it in 180 days? Would you be happy if I do it in 170 days? As a company. Yeah. Now let's keep answering this question. So if I'm able to complete this project in 165 days, will you be happy? More happy? What if I'm able to complete this in 150 days? Will you be happy? I will feel cheated as a company. Why? This guy played with me. Questionable. This guy played with me. Technically, this gap is too much. This project manager tried to play with the numbers and try to keep a very big buffer. Ideally, this project could have been finished in 150 days. He tried to kind of keep a much bigger buffer for himself and gave that baseline has bloated this baseline to a level of 180. Ideally, this guy sort of factored in too much of buffer and probably he's tried to play safe here, and it's sort of factored more time where it could have been completed in 150 days and it's like too much. That means this guy probably was playing safe or playing playing safe and sort of increasing it. So it's not so he's increased the value till 180, so it gets done, so he'll get praises from everyone, but that's too low. And that tells me this guy A is not capable. B A is not capable and is a duffer. He's probably not sure how to do it properly, or he's done it purposefully. So well, within that plus minus 10 is a good one. That within that plus minus 10%. So well, practically when you go ahead and look into it, in the end, what is taken as minus 5% till plus 10%. That's what is used as this is called definitive estimate. Definitive estimate is what is used. Definitive estimate. And we see something called ROM, rough order magnitude. When this is kind of high level prepared by the initial business analyst, we'll see this. You will have to kind of memorize this range also. But we'll get to the slide. So minus 25% when it was created initially by the business analyst, that variation should be anywhere between this, whatever was the actual, should be anywhere with. That means it tells me the estimates taken by the business analyst was relevant enough, like given that whether even the business analyst was playing safe or not. Well, bottom line, if you exceed this, that means you have undercommitted. If you, like, for example, it was 180 days. So plus 10% will take it 190 days, 198. What if I complete in, say, 190 days? Will I be happy? Yes, it's still within the range, acceptable range. What if I take 195 days? Still under acceptable. What if I end up taking, say, 210 days? That's not right, because you've gone too far out of this range. Bottom line, what it tells me that you are not probably knowledgeable enough, or you're not a good project manager who was able to control it, and they got extended till 210 days. I would have accepted till 198 because some bit of plus minus is okay. So that is how much range is allowed. Well, practically this is a definitive estimate. Minus side 5%, plus side 10%. That's what is used as definitive. We'll see that it will come in the slides. So this is meant for, in the end, you look at performance measurement baseline will be done based on, because you can't get an exact, whatever you predict, you can't be exactly there. But how much of swing is covered by these ranges? So this is prepared by the business analyst before the project is going on. This is done by the project manager. This is what. So these are fixed values. Please keep, you will see in the slides, but please keep this in mind. You have to keep this. This is called rough order magnitude, ROM. Rough order magnitude is anywhere between minus 25% till plus 75%. For definitive estimate, it becomes minus 5 till plus 10%. So if it's too high, that means you are not able to understand and estimate it correctly. And you were like, probably you're not a good project manager, a weak project manager who was not able to exceed. And yes, and that's why the change request will come into picture. If the change request, if there is something which will be done, remember the change request will if there's a like pandemic kind of thing comes into picture, which is unforeseen. And that is why, no, not because of the unforeseen. And that's why we have the change request. You have to have the approval. And when you approve that, the range will also get adjusted, right? A range will get adjusted. So you have to adjust. And yes, your logical, whenever you request for change request, it should be a logical one. And they approve. Remember that the limits will be adjusted again because your baselines will be updated. So it will have plus minus increased again. So whatever has been is the current baseline. In the end, you should finish anywhere between this range. That's how you will be assessed as a good project manager. You are weak, or you're trying to play too smart with the management. So it should be within that range, ideally. So all in all, we have to keep in mind what is the range of people get questions exactly on this range. Well, what is the range, acceptable range for ROM, rough order magnitude? So you got to keep in mind minus 25 till plus 25%. And for definitive estimates, minus 5 to 10 plus 10%. And please, and this will come in the future, in the slides itself within this lesson. So please, but again, memorize this. This is good. This is important one. Because people have just got simple, straightforward question. What is the right? So they might give you minus 1% to plus 10%, or minus 25 to plus 25%. So they'll give you option A, B, C, D. You have to select the right one. So please memorize this one. This is additional over and above. Yeah. So, okay, if the estimates taken, see, technically the business analyst estimates are gone any which ways. But there will be, because you have done all that estimate yourself, your baseline. The business analyst has not given a baseline. They had a tentative project budget. But again, this guy will also be getting assessed, because this guy, like, how much of deviation, well, was he or she was able to understand high level estimation correctly or not? So that will be also penalized. But again, we will be dealing with definitive one. We will, because that's what we are doing. When you do the project, definitive estimates are done when the project is on. ROM is before, rough order, initial high level planning. Is that okay with everyone? Quick check on this one, if it's okay. List of the things which we will be covering. Anyways, that's a checklist. That's a checklist we will be working on. Yes, Maha, just give me one quick second. 1 second here. Please unmute yourself.
Good evening, sir. So one question with regards to this plus minus with regards to the performance. Do we get some incentive, like example for the drilling industry? If we complete the project prior to the number of days that we have said so, we do get some award towards it, meaning you get some incentives on. So is that the same for other industry as well, or is it it is as per the decided terms?
Completely depends on the contract, completely, because it's a part of the contract, and we'll cover that element, because there is the contracts which are based on early value delivery also. So there could be incentive slabs like, yes, I could be working on a project, so I will speed it up. So management will be kept in the loop about the changes we're doing. So it's all going to be based on the contract. So if as a vendor, I have commit, like for example, talking about 180 days it will take. That's a planned timeline. It will take 180 days. But if we may have a legal contract, which would say that, okay, you have and we'll talk about those contract types also. We'll learn predictive and agile contracts. There is a contract type which talks about performance level, which tells you, okay, this vendor only works on performance based, like incentive kind of thing. So if my project is completed in 170 days to 180 days, I get, say, 5% of the total project budget. If I'm able to do it in 160 days to 170 days, I get, say, 15%, something like that. So it's in the interest of the vendor to get the job done quicker and sooner, and this guy gets more. So this is and this guy will pull in all the money, effort, resource. That depends on the kind of contract you got, because there's incentives for time, there's an incentive slab for cost, there is an incentive slab for quality. So there are different kind of incentive slabs which will. So these guys will work only on incentive model, like in sales process people do. Like, so there are different kind of contracts based on your contract will be what kind of model. But again, if you do it early, there's always, if the contract says there is award for early delivery, and there is penalties for late delivery also. So that's a part of the contract. What kind of legal terms we got into with the company?
So then in that case, out of 180, like the way you said, it was done in 150 days. Will that be questionable, saying that it's too much early that they have done, or something like that?
No. Okay. So that is when, like, when we have a vendor who's working on that kind of model, the performance measurement baseline, when we talk about, like, there's an amount which has been already decided, or probably time has been decided, and we are trying to go and get the job done early. So every time we're making an effort, you're putting more resources, you will be having, like, because of the clause you're getting into. So you might have those clause adjusted accordingly. So because then it may not be applicable in that case, because I have a clause in this vendor is getting paid on, and this guy will probably pull in more money, more resources, because this is why this guy will make more money. So it's an incentive for this guy. So then the lower side will not sort of impact, but the higher side will definitely be a negative clause will be there if it exceeds a certain limit. But again, in that case, if it's the legal contract says that, okay, sooner the better, then technically whatever we have agreed upon, we might have. So please keep this in mind. All rules are meant for the project manager and not for the vendor. The vendor,
okay,
this is all applicable for the project manager. So we are doing an assessment of the project manager, where the project manager has given higher time, because we will have this discussion done, we'll have this planning done, and as per this, we will hire a vendor from outside who's supposed to deliver the job within that time period. So if the contract this guy has come into the project because of this clause, well, then pretty much all those required correction will be done, because this guy who's a vendor, it's in the best interest of the vendor to get the job done early, because this guy can hit the maximum slab and make more money and more incentive as per the contract. Then practically the clause will be taken off, lower side one. And yes, obviously if we delay, there will be penalties there. So then it will be adjusted accordingly.
Okay, got you, sir.
But again, obviously, yeah, so it depends on the contract. We'll see those contracts also. Early value delivery, incentivized contract will be there.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Right. So quick one, if there's a project will be finished early, lesser than minimum baselines, shall we need to change the order? Change request can be done. Yes, change request. So anticipated. So we'll talk about anticipated change requests. You're right about that. So well, see, when I see certain things happening, and I can always adjust this, because I know it's going to hurt me. So I can always do an anticipation change request, and we'll see when or in what all scenarios we can raise a change request. So it could be, I may want to just revise the baselines, so we can raise a change request because of this work which has been exceedingly well by this vendor who has done this job exceedingly well. And now this job, which was supposed to take probably say 60 days, this vendor has done it in 50 days. So practically I may want to raise a change request. So it can be done. We can always go ahead and do that. Like it's more about what and the different scenarios where we can raise a change request whenever my baselines are getting impacted. So technically baselines are getting impacted when you're going low also and you're going high also. So yes, you can definitely. whenever Diana, whenever the projects are being like, so practically project manager can take those calls which are within the authority level of the project manager, but certain things, when we say there will be certain decisions which project manager cannot do, cannot take, so then you'll be escalating it. Well, but the things which are within the control and allowed by the project, so the risk tolerance which we have agreed with the project, with the sponsor, will decide when we should escalate. Well, and practically if you are doing it early, we will be able to go and tell this, like if we have a vendor who did the job early, we can go and make those corrections and adjustments there. So it can be done through change request. Yes, we can do that. Why would I make a change request if it will bottom line? See, it's not about like if my predicted. So the question is, are you playing safe? Big question is, are you playing safe? If I'm playing safe and my project is getting completed sooner, that means I try to factor in more time than it was required. So it is where if I go too low also, that raises a question mark on my ability or my intention about putting that schedule. Having that schedule in place, the timelines, probably I took a very extended timeline, very relaxed timeline, and that's why, because I wanted to play safe. So, well, that's where it is a project manager, which can be like, my intentions will be challenged there. So I may want to like constantly review, and things will be evaluated. So if things are getting finer, like I definitely want to get the job done early, and it all depends on the kind of, again, everything goes back to what kind of legal contract have you get into. Well, we'll see the different types of contract. Well, in certain cases, it may not make any difference. So based on what is your contract, this is like terms, the things will be, whether there'll be implications or not, will be there. But all in all, delayed delivery will always cause defect. So things which are the only problem which comes into picture when you do early delivery is where it goes below that expected range, because we know there will be efforts made to obviously minimize the cost, minimize the time. It's better for the organization, right? But it also raises a question, well, that should have been planned correctly. And you should not be giving me a last minute, okay, well, all of a sudden we have got a gap of we completed project like almost say 60% early. Well, it's a shocker. So that's going to be the case. The project manager will play safe and will raise a change request and get it adjusted because of XY reason. Now the things have been like pretty much in control, and we need to adjust this baseline. So we can always so baselines can get adjusted, because you don't want to be like seen as a person who's purposefully doing it intentionally, sort of increasing the timelines there just to play safe. So we would always have that kind of bandwidth always there to do that changes. So change requests will be required whenever, and there can be different scenarios where I will do anticipated change requests. I can foresee something happening. I can do that before the problem, even the baseline has impacted. I can do anticipated change. We'll talk about those methods also. But all in all, please keep this in mind. The term called artifact will be repeated time and again. And please keep this in mind. There are a lot of documents we will be creating. Every document is not an artifact. An artifact is a document which will recreate history. Any document which can recreate history is called an artifact. So every plan that you have, like all the baselines we have are artifact. All the project management plans, all the subsidiary plans are baseline or artifact, because they will get updated. You'll have a version control. Bottom line, for all artifact, you'll have 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 sort of thing always there. Why? Because that's how you can trace where it all started from. So if you have a version control involved, it will be an artifact, because you want to trace and keep the origin of how it all started. So concept is all about not updating. We don't update, we append. Update and append has a lot of difference. And in case of artifact, we append. Update means you remove. OPA is an artifact, 100%. You remove and basically replace with new one. So you, whatever is the old one, you delete it and then put a new one. That's update. You're updating it. But append, you don't. You keep original, and then you add a new. So you can always say this is original, this is the updated one. So you append, always add. In append, we don't remove the old one. We don't delete, we always add. So that we can always create version. So if my baseline was 1.1, well, if there is a change which has happened, we will be able to go back and look into the archives. Yes, all those. So we'll always keep those version controls. So I am currently working on say 1.5. So I can always go back and open up 1.4, 1.3, 1.2, 1.1. So we have not deleted them. We're not just one document. We are just we override. No, we don't override. We'll create another file and we'll say, okay, that's 1.2 upgraded version. So you always can go back in history and check this. The definition list you were viewing the while back. It may not show up. I will be sharing this. That's a part of the, I will be sharing a screenshot of that. It may not have come up because I had to click on that. So I will be sharing that. I share it with every batch. I'll be sharing that in the Excel file, what we have. I'll be putting that screenshot in the Excel file. I do that with every batch. Yeah. Archives, yes, it will be always done as archive. Yeah. Plus. Okay, perfect. Quick one here. Let's quickly check this out. Give me one quick second here. I'm not sure if we have exceeded the time or not. Yes, it's almost there. So let's do one thing. Let's take the break and let's we almost there. I guess we'll be starting a new thing. Well, let's do one thing. Let's take the break and we can resume from this topic after the break. So let's connect after the break. We'll connect in next 30 minutes from now as per your respective time zone. And yes, that's it. I guess let's please connect. Please take your breaks. We will connect again in 30 minutes from now. All right, so we're back from the break. Perfect. Okay, quick one. So I guess there was some message in the chat box about the study material again. For the batch 245, the Excel notes for the trainer. If you download from this Google Drive link, if you let me just post this Google Drive link in the chat again for the people who already have it. No need to give it again. This is the notes Google Drive where I've been creating these folders. So if you download this Excel sheet, on the top, there is an exam preparation material. You can find all the study material there. But apart from the traditional ones, which I've been creating this Google Drive, additional ones I've shared in this additional files, day 1, day 3, day 2, we did not share anything. So today I'll be sharing one more, 3 different elements there. So you'll be able to find them. So additional ones are here, but standard ones are all here in the exam material. So just check them out. Okay. I hope that should clarify your question, Mr. Prabhu. Okay, perfect. Let's get going now. So, before going on the break, we were on this slide, and we'll be resuming with this one. Let's start. Now, in case of predictive world, we know pretty much it's all the project manager who decides everything, plans everything. But in case of agile, we already know this drill, but let's still talk about the drill here. It's all about the product owner. So product owner decides the objectives according to the customer needs, and the team will do the job and they'll help to deliver the product, whatever the customer is looking for. So product owner will be the one who's going to plan the work, will prioritize the backlog, do all that job. So it's going to be product owner is going to prioritize and the team will do the job. Team members are domain experts because designer, developer, tester, coder, those people who are doing the job, technical experts, they will decide how the work will be planned, how it will be completed, how much work can be completed in a particular sprint, because they can do the effort estimation. They will use those estimation techniques to understand if I'm doing a sprint 1, how much of work can be done in the sprint 1, how many user stories should be pulled. So they will decide it. They are the ones who are technical people. Project manager, since we don't have a role of a project manager, practically, please keep that in mind in case of predictive. But since it's also talked about a hybrid, so that's why they mentioned project manager. And now this section is all about the team leader that we talked about from a scrum master. So who will be helping the team to focus on the execution. So, this is the role of a project. Technically, if you as a project manager, you're working in the area of the agile part. So you would be working like delivering the job of a Scrum Master, you will be ensuring that the agile practices followed. So you perform the duties of a Scrum Master. And if you actually have a Scrum Master, then practically my job is to work as a servant leader, not because in agile world, nobody's a boss. Product owner is not the boss. Scrum Master is not the boss. Team is not the boss. Bottom line, there is a flat hierarchy. There's nobody's senior, nobody's junior. All are same levels. But again, if you say project manager, that's a level. Definitely, there's authority. Here, they also have flat structure. So in a flat structure, everyone has a job role to perform. Product owners is responsible for like prioritizing the backlog, is the owner of the backlog, all that. So that's a job of the product owner to prioritize and ensure the work gets done. Team is the one who's supposed to do the job, and the Scrum Master is supposed to observe the people and solve the problems in case there's impediments there, do the coaching, counseling, and facilitate, do whatever possible it can be done to ensure that the team can execute their job properly. So that's a role for typically in the agile kind of framework. We already know that part here, but let's kind of quickly have a look at a quick comparison between all these predictive, adaptive, and hybrid comparison. So first thing first, we talk about predictive. Let's talk about this. Requirements are collected before you kind of go ahead and start doing the job. So which is more about planning. You collect the requirements, you plan, scope is done. So a lot of intensive planning is done because requirements are clear. The outcome is delivered once only. At the end of the project, it's iterative, but not incremental. You deliver only once. Well, changes possible. Well, we will not say not, but they are constrained. We have a lot of conditions, change requests, the change control board, and all that jazz. Practically, do we have involvement of stakeholder? Yes, at a specified milestone, some important stages, we will have the involvement of stakeholder. Like I was talking about in Six Sigma, we have stages. Like at the end of define phase, you have a meeting. At the end of measure phase, you have a meeting. Analyze phase, we have a meeting. Improve phase, you have a meeting. So there are specific milestones where this involvement will be done. Like in a construction project, I may have involvement when the excavation is done. Okay, the stakeholders can come back and check. Okay, excavation done, good job. Let's start the structure work. So when the structure work is completed, they can come back and check. Okay, it's done. So there are milestones which are important stages of the project when pretty much they can, but not regular. They're important stages. They're milestones. Risk and cost very much like obviously because you do a lot of planning, a lot of detailed discussion about this. So cost, schedule, you discuss everything about it. You have a detailed planning done about risk. So pretty much we do intensive planning. So predictive part we already understand. Let's talk about agile first, and then we talk about hybrid. In case of adaptive, the requirements are frequently elaborated because when and how soon. Well, at the end of every sprint. Well, if you want, you can go at this level. The moment the sprint gets over, in every demo, you can have new changes added, new things. So, well, it is frequently elaborated during delivery. So, well, no changes are done during sprint. You plan 2-week sprint, that work will happen. The changes will be allowed. So, yes, at very frequent, like at the end of every sprint, go and do like a change. I want to add something. So because when you add and subtract something, well, the product owner will reprioritize backlog. So I don't care what's there. Whatever you have planned, we will do the job. And yes, you want to add. So you have you can go at every sprint level, very frequent. Well, outcome at the end of every sprint, at the end of each iteration, you have value delivery happening. At every sprint, the product owner said, well, these are my top priority user stories. And you pulled those items and you did the job. So you're delivering value at the end of every sprint. So which is frequent delivery, very, very frequent delivery rather. Changes incorporated real time during the delivery plus, but please keep this in mind. We will, Mr. Syed, I will just avoid, I guess somebody is, okay, give me one quick second. I will be able to take care of that. Disable, okay, now, which we go now. So the real time delivery, well, please keep this in mind, incorporated real time, we're talking about typically when the sprint is over, not during the sprint. We'll see a slide where it will clearly say no changes are permitted during the sprint. So during the 2 weeks period, no changes. But apart from that, you can continue making those changes. Involvement, this guy sitting with me, planning every sprint, backlog prioritization, has always been done. Very continuous one. Changes, well, We do have risk. Well, this guy could keep asking more and more. So, well, there are risks. Well, we have controlled as a matter of fact, the way agile works, these are already controlled and honestly way too safe as compared to predictive. Well, because the only so I can only have a damage of done, which is about one sprint. The sprint I will lose. I may do the job which is not correctly done because I was not able to understand the requirement. So I will be able to correct that mistake. Bottom line, it's not a long planning. We don't waste time in planning because it's changing. And why would I plan for something which is going to change tomorrow? So it is very short duration work. We work in a small bits and pieces. We keep doing the job. We keep checking. So it's much more controlled. The cost and this risk is very much controlled in case of agile. Having said that, hybrid is all about mix and match, both of it. So periodic, yes, because some part will be wherever your predictive part comes into picture, you will have the same kind of requirements are clear, but the changes will happen whenever the portion of agile will be talked about, because there will be changes done during delivery, but not in case of predictive, unless there's a change request. We will have it divided into pieces. Why? Because its modules are created, module 1, module 2. So module 1 is predictive, module 2 is agile. That can be done. So you can divide that into pieces because based on predictive and agile. And yes, you can have periodic interval involvement changes can be done, which is again the part of agile we're talking about, where the changes are done at periodic interval, because otherwise it's a change request. Whenever they'll be required in change, like it on need basis. In predictive part, we'll do it on need basis, but here agile will still happen as a result of agile. Regular, again, because still it has a part of agile in it. And yes, things will get elaborated as the project moves on. We'll have more clarity about the project. So yes, things will get elaborated. Every project is progressively elaborated. You cannot be 100% correct. So you might define things at a high level. And as you start doing that job, you get detailed about more understanding. When I'm doing this job, I will have it detailed, but things in the future will still be at a high level. But again, when I get to that point, I can start detailing. So projects are always progressively elaborated. You cannot have 100% crystal clear clarity about every single thing. But when I start moving on, when I start doing the job, I get more clarity. Well, given I have spent already 1 month, I have more idea about what needs to be done. I have spent 2 months and I have even more idea. So it gets better. The clarity gets better as we move forward. That's what we call as progressive elaboration. I can't, like, for example, what is an example of progressive elaboration? Well, our PMP study. The day probably we committed to plan for PMP study, we must have talked about various institutions and all that. So the planning was done. So pretty much when you got enrolled, then pretty much you got now the training period which is going on. Well, do you have clarity? Well, I have clarity of these dates when the training will happen, what I'm going to do. The things are crystal clear, what will be done, what will be my schedule given my workload. But right when the training gets over, well, do I have absolute crystal clear clarity what I'll be doing on this date and that date? No, practically not. But we have high level idea. After the training gets over, I will be going back and checking out these recordings once probably. I would do that. Look, at least scan through the slides. At least we have the recorded slides. We can look into that. Once we're done with it, we will be at least going and scanning all that agile practice guide. We'll be checking out this PMBOK 7, Perform Rita Mulke. So all that stuff, we will be filling up the application form, sending it for review, then kind of going and filing the application. So that high level. But again, when you go to that stage, you'll have more clarity, more details. Well, you'll be following all those steps. So you don't detail everything here, which is in future. As you move forward, you start detailing it as you move forward. That's what we call progressive elaboration. As you progress, you elaborate. As you progress, you elaborate. So things are defined at high level, but you will get more clarity as you move on. So things will vary. That's a hybrid part, typically. Now, starting with the first section, remember this is the first thing, because project management plan is the master plan. And after you created all the plans, they will be merged and then you have a master plan. The merging part is the integration layer. Integration layer is only controlled by project manager. That job can't be done. So that integration will be last topic in this lesson. In this lesson, the last topic is integration, because after you created all the plans, you have to join those plans, merge this plan, and make one master plan. So we'll start with the scope, because that's what you got to do. Project has been identified. You are the project manager. A project charter has been approved practically. So a project is officially started. You got your team members, you identified stakeholder, you got your team charter created. That all job has been done. But you have don't have details about the project. So you start with the scope. In the scope, typically, just before we get in this content and we look into it, what do we have in scope? First of all, a scope management plan. So scope management plan will be there. What is in there? It tells a document. It tells you the guidelines, the rules, the methods, how this company does the scope management plan. How do you collect it? Because as for this, you will have to collect requirements. When you collect requirements, it will be coming from the customer. Customer can give you requirement. Customer cannot give you scope. Scope is only defined by the project manager. When these requirements are collected, they will be broken down to project scope statement. When this project scope statement is done, you will break it down further into a WBS, work breakdown structure. So that's the job you have to perform in this entire thing. Let's see what we have to do in this scope part. Well, progressive planning. So we already discussed about every project in the world. Whenever you talk about any project, it doesn't matter what. You will not have 100% clarity. You will always progress. As you move forward in the project, you will get more clarity and your project will get better. So detailing will happen as the project moves on. You will always define things at high level for future, but again, it will get better and clear as the project moves on. So that's what we call progressive elaboration. Another term for that is called rolling wave planning, because as you move forward, you get better. You move forward, you get better, more clarity. Because like the more information you get, you are more confident of handling things in the future. That's pretty much it. Let's see. This is a very important term and a very important section. I will be playing this video and we will discuss about this MVP and MVI. But before that, anyone would like to kind of tell me what is if you have heard about MVP, because it's a very common term. MVP is very common. MBI is not. But again, people from Agile world will definitely know MBI. But for now, minimum viable product. Perfect. And what is MBI? In case, are we clear? No. Minimum business increment. It's business. Very close to that, Sujitra. So let me just play this video. Have a look at it. And let's talk about it then. Let's play this video first.
One of the cornerstones of Agile is to release incrementally. Build a small but complete piece, release it, learn from it, pivot if needed, and then do it again. But that's not all there is to it. What you build in each of these incremental releases depends on what your objective is. If you're trying to figure out whether a new product or service is viable, you probably should release a minimum viable product. A minimum viable product is often a prototype, where some functionality is simulated or even performed manually. The idea is to do just enough work to get something in front of potential customers and learn what they really want. Because a minimum viable product is an investment for discovery. If you're expanding or enhancing an existing product or service, you probably should release a minimum business increment. A minimum business increment is the smallest releasable chunk of value that makes sense from a business perspective. A minimum business increment is an investment for revenue. Minimum business increments offer several benefits. They add value for your customers. They help you determine if you're building the right thing. They help you figure out if you're building the right way. They give you a way to determine if what you're building is actually useful. And they enhance your ability to deliver value in the future. Minimum business increments are one of the most useful concepts in Agile, perfect for setting your Agile increment.
All right, so let me just quickly try to kind of give a highlight. At least we conceptually should be clear. Quick 2 words, like sort of a differentiating factor. Well, both are more formal. We can be used in Agile framework. We can use MVP, and by default, MBI is always there. 100% you will see MBI. One is for finding potential customer, new customer. So customer is not with you right now. Please give it a potential new customer. That's what we're dealing with. And this section we're going to talk about MVP, minimum viable product. And this side we talk about we have customer. We have a customer. We already have a customer. So we're not trying to find one. We already have a customer. This is when we talk about MBI. Let's talk about this section first. So I'm sure we all must have seen that that show, which generally broadcasted. It's called Shark Tank. Shark Tank. I'm sure everyone has seen, like, where people come with some sort of ideas and like they want to present the idea. This is our like startup program, and they explain about this is the like a true potential. And we are looking for so and so investment. We are ready to give you this percentage of share for our company, and this is what is the money that we're looking for. So the very common practice. Everyone comes with MVP, minimum viable product. Why? They're looking for new investments. They're looking for new customers who are ready to invest in their ideas. All are MVP. Everyone is coming with an MVP, a minimum viable product. Very early days for the company. Probably we have established some sort of market base. We have some ideology, and it's a working model, a business model, which is just there. Like it has started working. It's operational. It's not a big one, but we do have like it's a working model, scalable model. We believe, that's my understanding. I believe it's a scalable model, and I have great like plans for this. If I get some funding, the only thing which is stopping me to become the next Amazon is probably your funding. So give me your funding, and the moment you're able to give me funding, I have this plan, I have that plan, I've got this whatnot. So I want to reach out to potential customers. But before this, let's answer some things. So you don't have a customer, so you are investing from your pocket. So assume that somebody has spent good amount of time like doing a job, doing business or whatever, has saved some money. Now this guy wants to become an entrepreneur and probably want to start something, some startup stuff. So all his or her lifelong investment. So there's all investment coming from his or her own pocket investment. This is self, which this guy is going to be, the person will be investing from his or her own end. So I've invested this money in making something, some sort of a working model, some prototype, some small business, something I have created. So investment has gone into it, effort has gone into it. And in my opinion, because it's my product, I would not say my product is bad. In my opinion, I've done a great job. Like, why would I invest the money in something which I don't believe? I believe this has got great potential. Well, you always think your product is a great one, the breakthrough idea. Nobody could come up close to this. That's what we probably highly believe. So that's why we have invested all our money, our effort, and probably invested so many years in developing and kind of making sure that it's ready. So it's working right now. It's working. It's making us some money. But now we have shortage. We can't scale up. Right now, the problem is scalability, because I do not have enough funds. I do not. And now I believe that if I can get somebody to invest in this, I will be able to scale up and make a big business out of it. I've got a lot of plans. I could do this, I could do that, and got a lot of plans there. But the big question is, how do I get the money? So I will reach out to my potential customers with my prototype, a working model, some sort of working, like it could be a POC, proof of concept, POC bill, that can also work, Mr. Yusuf. Minimum viable product could also be a proof of concept. Ideally, but taken as a working model, ideally, but again, in certain cases, that will also work. So POC will also work as a MVP. But again, it's more about you have invested. So please keep this in mind. This all stuff has been cooking up in your brain, in your mind. It's your own brainchild. This is all your ideas, all your planning, all that thing. What you believe is the best one. And that's why you've been investing so much of time and money and effort in this one. Now, was the customer involved in this? Was the customer involved in this planning and commission? No, practically not. You had no customer because you're looking out for it. But you believe that your idea will be a breakthrough idea. And when you show it to the potential customers, everyone will go become a fan of you. Oh my God. Well, this is one project I really want to invest. Tell me, what do you want? Like, that's what I would expect. Because the way I'm so excited, the way I'm so much dedicated, I have so much of confidence in my business idea, people will go crazy about it and they will also invest. That's what my assumption is. But please keep this in mind. While I designed and developed this idea, there was no involvement of no customer input, because there were none. You were the only one, no customer input. So now you're trying to play on your luck also. You're just trying to kind of be very optimistic and you're believing that what makes logical sense to you, what looks like a great idea to you, will also look like a great idea to them. If it does, then good job, congratulations. You will get the money and you have not new customers. And then you can start scaling it up and do whatever you want. But in certain cases, I'm sure if you've seen Shark Tank, a lot of people are just been like the people who are investors, they just say, well, it doesn't make logical sense. Well, why have you been wasting so much of time? Well, practically because your idea did not connect with them. The brain, like whatever the mindset did not connect. My ideology was different, and I felt that they will also understand my ideology. They said, like, it's also waste of money. Well, I'm not going to be investing. I'm out of it. Everyone gets out of it. That means you have lost so much of money. Nobody's ready to buy in. Your idea of great and like global idea of great is different. It's a very big risky proposition, but again, you don't have a choice. Why? Because you don't have a customer. You have to take that risk. It's risky. It's risky because you would invest your time, money, effort, everything in creating something, and you'll hope it will work for you. And yes, if it works, great. If it does not, then you will be wasting a lot of money. You will be a dissatisfied person in that case, practically. Now, having said that, the other part is any given day, 100%, I will say 100% safe bet, 100% safe. Why? You already have a customer. This is how your Scrum works. The one we talked about, let's say, the product backlog. This is exactly what you talk. MBI is getting created. What is MBI? Let's talk about it. Then this is got product backlog. We have got the product owner has given all the user requirements here. All the user requirements. The team has asked the product owner to prioritize. We have got prioritization, highest to lowest. The team pulls the item, gets a job done. And when this item, the output is created here, the output is what we call as minimum business increment. Why? Because whatever you created, it's a value to the customer. Minimum business increment is the value to the customer. Well, did I decide this minimum business? No, it is the customer. So I'm not creating anything. I'm creating what you want. So it's not my idea what has been created. It's what you want. This was your topmost user story. That's what I asked first. Got the clarity. What do you want to see? So you prioritize the customer. I'm saying the customer prioritized the user story. The customer gave me the details and I delivered exactly what you wanted. And yes, I have a value created because value is from the perspective of what the customer wants. So I've created a value at every time when I'm doing this job. So it is adding value because every time a sprint is completed, a value is created because the most valuable user story is getting created by the customer. Okay, I guess there is something which is shared in the chat, I guess. Mr. Amjad has shared some post. Let me just kind of click on this. Give me one quick second. Let me just kind of download and let's see. I'm not sure. I have not checked it, but I guess there is some link to, I'm not sure. So let me just give me one quick second here. Okay. MBI, minimum viable production funds. I guess you guys can also download it if you like. This is pretty much. So you kind of go ahead and do the job every time when you're doing a job. Like so, MVP, minimum viable product, is something which pretty much we are trying. Well, honestly, we will be having there is a risk, but again, that's when you do with your new customers. With your existing customers, you'll always be working with your MBIs, because whenever you create something, it is going to be an MBI because you are creating something as per the customer requirement. So you will be dealing with the customer requirements whenever you have any customer for that matter. You will be based on the method we work on. So whenever any feature is getting developed based on the user stories you're working on. So every outcome that is created, it is a valuable increment. It's a value increment which is happening. So it's by default. So whenever we work on a project, it will always be every sprint will create a minimum business increment. You accept project that has MBI or MVP. See, okay, Diana, when you have a project already assigned to me, that means I have a customer. So I will no longer be making an MVP. I will be creating an MBI because there is a value increment which is getting created. Ideally, when do you use MVP? You only use MVP to get a new customer, or it's quite possible a project can be treated as an MVP also. Well, if you as a company, say if I'm a software development company and I have been contracted to create an MVP, then it could be an MVP because so then my customer is the one who wants to get a product, something designed and wants to see whether it's going to work or not. So yes, then I may be creating an MVP for somebody. But that's going to be MBI for me, because technically, let's see, if there's I have been talking about this so-called travel portal, which will have the ticketing option, which will have a quick cabs option, you will have the vacation packages and God knows, hotels and all. So I can contract a company, and which is into software and website design development, and so I can give them a part where I have money only to get the portal ready, where I can only get this sort of ticketing stuff done. Only the tickets is what I can. So that's what I can get, and I want to see whether this is working for people or not. And that's what I want to just get this small piece released in the market. Once it's released, I would like to see, that's my MVP. I don't want to invest anymore. I want to see how the reaction goes. If the reaction is good, then I will continue with other stuff. But again, this will be my MVP in that case, because I'm launching something and trying to see whether it's working or not for people. And otherwise, I'll scrap off. I don't want to go forward, because if it's not working, it's not exciting, people are not responding, it's not getting the due attention from the market, I will scrap off this project right there. So there will be a lot of MVPs. Google does a lot of it. Google does lots and lots of it. Say MBI comes into picture when you have a customer which is sitting and telling you what needs to be done. You're doing that job. That's it. You will have an MBI created. So your customer is deciding. But MVP is ideally a small piece of chunk which you'd want to generally use for testing and getting something from our new customer. Quick check on this one if it's okay and clear with everyone, I hope. And thank you, Mr. Amjad, thank you for sharing that. I'm not sure, I've not seen this link. I can open up and see what this link is all about. Give me one quick second. I'm sure some project management blog post about MVP and MBI, but I can just check this out. Well, people can definitely, since it is something to do with the, well, that's all the logos, but is it, okay, I will have to be sure about it. Is it PMI website? Because that, when you talk about PMI website, has to PMI here. Give me one check. Well, give me one quick second here. Because the PMI website is PM. I may not want to refer to any third party material here. Not sure. I can check this out. I'll rather go and keep this for a moment. I can check this out. I won't be able to kind of refer exactly to this material unless it's a PMI material. I will like just keep it for a moment. I'll check this out. And if it's okay, this I'll definitely want to read it unless it's something which is, we can use it. Okay, perfect. Let's kind of talk about this. Okay, is it okay and clear with everyone, MVP and MBI? Everyone, quick check on this one. Okay, let's then get going. Perfect. Oh, this one again. Now, we know this drill already, but let's quickly have a look at it. So product roadmap is what is shared by the product owner in the beginning, but this is what we want to created here. The entire process, we're talking about the product roadmap. So the product roadmap tells you the overall vision of the company, what is getting created, how, what kind of, like, basically what are we trying to develop here, tentatively what are the release plans here, pretty much. And when you have this created, the entire product gets created completely, how big differentiating factor it would be, how does it line up with overall objectives of the company and all that stuff, which we can definitely talk about. So all in all, that's the like overall product roadmap. We already know these terms, just been explained here. You will have overall like end-to-end product roadmap, and that this releases will further be broken down to multiple sprints and all. That's what we're looking at, all in all. Milestones. Well, this has got a very important element to be covered here. We will have to keep one thing in mind. Well, we can talk about what is milestone and everything here, but please keep one more element in mind. If you get a question ever about what is your milestone has a duration or not, please keep this in mind. Milestone has 0 duration. And what is milestone? I'll sort of kind of write down, like give you a quick, like a very simple layman example, and then we can look into what's written there. But all in all, the answer to every question, like if you get a question like that, what is the duration of a milestone? The answer is always going to be 0 duration. And what is milestone? Let's see. I'll rather kind of give you my career path. That's a milestone. So we'll talk about, say I started working in 2001. and I carried out this job till say 2004. And from 2004, I carried out the job till 2008. And then from 2008 till say 2014, and then 2014 onwards, till date, I'm into Lean Six Sigma consulting. So till date, so these are important stages. Well, I picked up a job here. This was my first job change which happened. Second job change and third job change. Practically, these were important stages in my career. Important stage. These are milestones. Well, is there a duration for this? No, these are just an important highlight. Something happened. That's what is milestone. So milestone is something which is important, and we want to just have a look at it. So milestones are important stages, important events in the project. So milestones in the project can be decided by the project manager, can be decided by the customer, the sponsor, can be decided based on the project requirements also, based on certain basic standard project requirements will also be, which will have there. And they can sit together and plan for something which is together. They can also brainstorm. Just important stages. So what are these markers for big events? Reviews, due dates, payments, decision making. So important events. Prompts for reporting requirements. If there's something which is to be done, important stages. So if something has to be communicated, so important stages has to be marked that this is what will happen or this is supposed to be done. We'll know that the important activities to be happened there. Created by project managers, customers, or both. So when you have all this milestone created, you will prepare a milestone list, which tells you a list of all the things which will be are important things which to be done, like even the payment to vendors and all that payment, or like this phase completed, phase 2 complete. That those are milestones. So some are mandatory as per the contract, what is in the contract, based on project requirements, and some could be optional based on if somebody has done it in the past, best practice, you learn their OPA, and you see, okay, these guys will also kept a track of so and so extra milestone. We will also keep it that way because it makes logical sense. So we can look at historical data and also keep it. So, well, milestones, bottom line, are in just keep conceptually, they are important events, and you have to keep this in mind that these events are going to happen and on certain duration. And yes, that's it. Is there a duration for it? No, it's just an important event there. Would ceremonies be called as? No, ceremonies are not milestones. So ceremonies are generally every meeting is a milestone, like a ceremony. But milestones are important stages, important events. Like if you want to call it as a milestone, releases are milestones. Like because when doing a sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, sprint 4 sprint completed, say one feature got developed. Well, feature is not what I'll be releasing. Well, probably we'll complete all the features and we have a release 1 done. That's a milestone. So that will be a release, like a milestone. Now, have a quick look at this one. This is where we already know this part of the structure for sure. Project manager is the one who's the boss and always starts with the scope process and starts collects requirements process. That's what you do. We already discussed. So project manager is supposed to collect requirement. How? Well, you do whatever you want, sit down with the customer, have a face-to-face conversation, or do a survey, whatever you want, collect requirements, different methods. We will see like different kind of methods to collect requirement. How do you collect? Electronic, paper, do whatever you want, whatever company policy says for collecting requirement, you have to do that way. So when you collect the requirements, you will have a scope statement, project scope statement created. Then you will have a work breakdown structure created. We already discussed these elements. And based on this, further plans will be created. The schedule, the budget, resource, everything will come into picture. We know that drill. Bottom line, that part is the predictive part. We already know that part already, but we'll be, and it's just detailing. It's just an initial part of overview. Now, in case of Agile, we don't have to deal with anything of that sort. So product owner creates and refines the backlog for sprint planning, basically. Explains each prioritized user story, which is DOD, definition of done, whatever user story you will be working. So this will give you the checklist, what needs to be checked, and what the team does. Team does effort estimation, and what those methods are, we will be exploring. Called, I said, Fibonacci series is what Fibonacci series is used, and there are 3 types of different techniques we call as planning poker, t-shirt sizing, story points. They all work on Fibonacci series. We'll discuss it when it comes to that stage. So there are effort estimation techniques used in Agile. So with that, we try to understand how much time it will take. So if a backlog has say 100 user stories, so tentatively how long it will take to finish this user story. So that base, we can have the estimation done. So then there is a term called velocity, which comes into picture. Now, what is velocity? The average user stories, average number of user stories. What's an average user story you are completing per sprint. So or per sprint, what is your average? So for example, we have got, let's just to make it simple, we got sprint 1 done, sprint 2 done, sprint 3 done. So we completed, say, 10 user stories here, 20 user stories here, and 10 user stories here. We'll take average of these 3, which will be which will be called as my velocity. Whatever the average number of user stories you're processing will be called as velocity. That's the, like, what is the rate at which you're, and per sprint, how many user stories you're completing on an average. That's velocity. We'll discuss all of it as we come forward. This is places, the team would place the user stories from the product backlog, not the product owner. The team will pull the item from the product backlog into the release backlog, or we call it as sprint backlog. And based on whatever they believe they can do the job in that sprint, they will pull that item. So I will not just pull up, say, like 100 user stories to be done in a sprint. No, I'll see how within this sprint, how much, like basically how many user stories what we're pulling, how much effort will be required. Can we finish those user stories within this 2-week sprint? That's what we will be talking about. So they will decide it. Nobody else gets to decide. And then remember, I said, like, there's a story map created by the product owner, which is about user stories, the topmost user stories, second highest, third highest, fourth highest, in decreasing order. So topmost is here and the lowest is here. This is prioritized by the product owner, and that will always be done after every sprint. The reprioritization will be done. This is called story map. Story map is for prioritize user stories in case of whatever, and that will be done by the product owner. Quick check on this one, if it's okay and clear. Okay, let's then move ahead. Okay, I'm not sure how many times these guys will kind of do this job, this stuff. Well, if your requirements are clear, well, go with yes, then go with predictive. If the requirements are, I'm speaking of maybe not somewhat clear, not clear, maybe hybrid. Sort of not like things may be changing, then I will be going with agile. We already know that. I'm not sure. Well, probably somebody was getting paid to create more number of slides. It looks like that. I'm not sure how many times they will ask you the same thing. Okay. So requirements will be gathered from the customer. Customer cannot give you scope. Customer cannot give you scope because customer can only give you requirements. So requirements will be captured by the product owner from the customer. So we will be trying to capture each and every information from the customer. What do you want and what is that? You basically will just be collecting every single requirement, like I want a 2-bedroom hall kitchen at the ground floor. I need like a modular kitchen and stuff. Like basically whatever the requirements, I will capture this information from them, basically whatever, because that's what they want to be done. So I will have to collect the requirements, and that will be then moving into the requirement. Remember, we said requirement traceability matrix. So we'll have to capture requirement from the customer, from the sponsor here. That's what it is. We'll be collecting these requirements from the customer. And ideally, we'll have to try to make sure it's easily understandable. We should not keep a requirement which is vague, because then vague requirement will be different, because you have to break it down, get the acceptance criteria discussed. So you will have to have clarity. You can't have a vague requirement. Okay, like I want a good modular kitchen, the wooden flooring should be of good quality. What do you mean by that? So it cannot be like that kind of like requirement. You have to give me specific, what kind of model, what kind of color, what, like basically you got to give me specific. You can't just say, okay, it should be great, it should look good. Bottom line, that doesn't make sense. So it should be easily understood, and we will be able to ask requirement. So because then you'll have acceptance criteria. So when we collect requirement, we will try to ensure that we have clarity about it, because then you have to have acceptance criteria discussed for this, because tomorrow you will come back and check whether this job is done or not. So I need to have the clarity what my team will do the job. So that's where the requirement part comes into picture. How do you collect is what we'll be talking about. Some bit of thing which we already discussed, requirement traceability matrix. So a simple document you can have, and this is just a sample template that has been created here. You can customize your own document, and this will be all, bottom line, what it has is all possible requirements given by the customer. So you will have it as a part of requirement traceability matrix. The customer can give you requirements. So we will capture those requirements into RTM. Please remember the short form RTM, requirement traceability matrix, where customer can come back even after 6 months, say, okay, let me see what is done. So because customer giving you requirements can come back and see what is the requirement. So this requirement say 30% complete. This is say 15% complete, like say 10% complete. I can see that by looking at the requirement traceability matrix. So you can have your own template format, which will vary from company to company. but this is for the customer, not for us. For us, we have a WBS, work breakdown structure. This will further be broken down into WBS called work breakdowns. But for customer, this is what we will be referring to, a requirement traceability matrix. And you will have, this is meant for the customer because customer gives you requirement. You're not going to scope and the way work breakdown structure or activity level. Customer is not even concerned about going at activity level because that's not my job. Well, I hired you as a project manager and you have a team to do that job. Why should I get into small piece of every small piece of activity, whether you've done this job or I will ask for my deliverable. Is this deliverable completed? What's going on and all that job. So I'll ask at high level what is done, not at activity level, whether you've done a half wall or like 3/4 wall. I don't want to get into all that jazz. Not my problem. It's your problem. I'm paying you to get the job done. So get the requirements taken care of. So that's the requirement traceability matrix where you capture information and pretty much you will have all the information in here. So this will be updated real time, or like you sort of link it with your tools that you're dealing with. And you like bottom line at any point in time, if customer has to see, this is the only document customer will come back and check and say, well, it's done, what is not done. We'll be looking into RTM then. So please keep this in mind. It's the document for the customer, not for us. With that being said, when you collect requirements, you will be going and kind of collecting and track you'll have to collect in a certain way, and those methods will come into picture. But again, when you collect the requirements, you will be making sure all those tasks will not be rather generally when you see, if you go back to the RTM template, you'll see some codes. Like ID 0001, some 1.1, 1.1, 1.2, 1.21. These are versions because we don't write all the descriptions there. It'll become a messy thing. So we always write down some codes. We assign some based on the version control, which is followed by the team. So we will see these codes also linked up with your WBS, work breakdown structure. So codes will be assigned. These codes are created based on the company's configuration management system. Well, what kind of rules we have, like company uses. So configuration management system will be there based on which the company decides, well, it's an alphanumeric code or simply numeric code. Well, how do you give the nomenclature name, the number system, which is the version control rules will be used here. And you will see the same thing in WBS. That WBS has all the things which are like broken down. Work will be broken down in WBS structure. And there you will be code system will also be there because it will be hard to write like the wall is to be constructed, a modular kitchen. You can't write all that. It become messy. So you'll have 1.1, then within this 1.1, you have 1.1.1 done and 1.1.2. Now, what do you know? How do you know what is 1.1.1? There will be a document we'll study called WBS dictionary. The WBS dictionary will have everything which tells you what is 1.1, what is 1.1.1, what is 1.1.2. That dictionary will give you all the details. So it will become messy to write here. There is a WBS dictionary which will give you every detail about the code. This is called WBS code. WBS code, this is created, which is based on, also call it as code of accounts. Code of accounts is another term. This will come ahead of us. Bottom line, these are all done based on the version control, which is as per the company policy we'll be following it. And this helps you to track. Bottom line, if the work is supposed to be done, the work is getting done. So some work, whenever my team will do the job, some work deliverable will be completed or like certain percentage of the work will be completed. So in order to track and report whether the job is done or not, you will require this kind of version control. So because all will be linked with some sort of software, like whether we call it a project management information system, like Microsoft Project. You will maybe using a Primavera, you may be using a Jira, whatever. There are a lot of versions, a lot of things. So you have so many options there. Well, you will pick up any software, they're all the same. So you learn one, you learn everything by default. They are just a different name. So, well, that will help you to kind of integrate all the work which is done, and that can link up with your this requirement traceability matrix. So it gets getting real time updated as the work gets on. So yes, it will also help you to understand for every requirement given by the customer, because there could be certain requirement which may need like 2 people approval, 3 people approval, depending on the complexity of it, depending on the fund requirements. You might have the information about for a particular requirement who will be the authorized person to kind of like sanction something and all that. What is the like spending limit authority? Probably if there's a $5,000 invoice, for example, say these two people will be required. If there's more than 5,000, like which is between 5,000 to say $10,000, then you need like one more extra, like, so these three people, so two people apart from that, this new person will also be required. So that kind of details will be available for every requirement. It will help you to prioritize also. We'll see some bit of prioritization methods we use, but again, it helps you to understand there will be a lot of customer requirements. How will you prioritize which requirement will be done first, which will be done second? So that will be, we will see some methods for that. Again, whenever you kind of going in and kind of developing and designing something for the customer, it will help you when you kind of develop these codes and all. We will be able to kind of look at the, like when you're having a discussion with the customer, it helps you get a clarity. When you break it down at that level, you will be able to understand how does it, like this, all these elements you're doing, how does it sort of in the end you make up your product and all. So basic general stuff they have kind of mentioned. But all in all, the main purpose of this, please keep this in mind, the entire concept of your requirement traceability. This is all about your requirement management plan, how the company will, like what kind of policies, procedures. These are guidelines. Remember, when you say a plan, it's plan. It's about what, how that job needs to be done. So how this company will be actually collecting requirement. So what will be the method, how, like everything which is going to be collected, well, these things will be kind of discussed with the, when we're going to collect requirement, we'll keep this thing in mind. Well, and this will also include the kind of documentation procedure, what kind of methods, well, you're collecting requirement, would you do a face-to-face? That will also be part of it. Because how in my company, these requirements are supposed to be collected. Do you have a face-to-face or a survey? Do you write it on a piece of paper or do you electronic thing? Everything, how it will be stored and information will be shared. That everything will be, but core purpose, please keep this in mind. Its purpose is traceability. That's it. My work will happen every day. Some say, we've got, say, 50 laborers working on my site. Well, when the work is happening every day, some or other deliverable is getting completed, not fully, some, like, because they're doing the job every day on some different elements. So when work is getting done, some work is sort of, this is linking up with some, so probably a work which, like today, when you completed, the day one, say some deliverable, 5% of the deliverable got completed. Because this guy doing the job, some deliverable got completed up to 35%. So as and when people are doing the job every day, some deliverables are getting if you're not fully completed, some percentage of the work is getting completed. So how this will be rolling up, and finally we will be able to trace whether the customer, at the customer requirement level, how much percentage is completed, how much is not. The customer can come back and check this only. So this purpose, core purpose is, as the name says, RTM, requirement traceability matrix. You're able to trace how those, what is the status of those requirements by looking at an RTM document, which is pretty much for the customer. That's and this is still the set of guidelines, rules which are there in the RTM, nothing more. It's most about just tell you how it needs to be done. But what needs to be done is right. We'll be seeing when we're collecting requirements from the customer. There will be lots of requirements, and there can be different kind of requirements. So in just again, still an overview, some requirements could be generally the project related. So whatever you're delivering for the customer, those will be referred as like project requirements related to projects. Whatever requirements we have from various stakeholders, sponsors, we'll be talking about them. So the requirements will be captured from them also, because you identify different stakeholders. You will be speaking with various stakeholders and you try to understand for this project what all needs to be done. So you'll collect requirements from stakeholders regarding the project. If during your project you're delivering a product, then there is a term called two things which will come into picture: functional requirement, non-functional requirement. Now, the simple term, when you say functional requirement, these are those features of your product or service which defines your product. Like when I say Siri, I know this is unique to Apple. This you won't find anywhere else, right? You say in iTunes, that this is unique to Apple. You won't find anywhere. The Apple logo, for that matter, whatever this Apple logo is there. That logo you only find in Apple. You see Safari browser, you only see that in Apple. FaceTime, you see like basically you see only in Apple. So these are those features which define the product. Existence of this product demarcates, and these are sort of your identity of your product is these functional features. These are the features which defines your product. So if I'm collecting that we are trying to design and develop a product, by doing the project, we'll have to ask from the sponsor about those features which will define their product pretty much. They are the specific to your product only and would not be seen anywhere else. And then our non-functional requirements, which are additional features which will be added, which will optimize the quality of the product, efficiency of the product, which could be like, say, if I'm talking about battery life. Well, we want to like how long the battery life should be there. Like probably we're talking about camera quality. Well, camera, like for the pixel and all. So how much more? So those are things which we want to talk about, those features which will be like additional over and above the functional features, which define the product. But these are additional features which will sort of higher the bet, like sort of you improvise them, it will be like it will get better because these features are over and above. You will find it with everyone else. So here it's more about additional add-on features. But when you talk about sub-functional one, are core features which defines the existence of your product. So if they are trying to design and develop a product, please have that clarity from the customer. So we have clarity what they are working on. And again, for every requirement of the customer, we'll have a quality checklist, which is acceptance criteria developed. So we'll say, well, everything, well, what is the feature? What are the characteristics you will check? What is the audit criteria? That will be your quality checklist based on the delivery, every single deliverable you have to do. There will be requirements which have to be captured from technically the business stakeholders, which is what we get from project charter. Basically, what is the reason of doing the project? How does it tie up with the long-term business objective? That we have to collect requirements. Speaking with when you're going to speak with various stakeholders, you will collect requirements related to reporting. Well, do you need a like a daily report, a weekly report, well, face-to-face report, or like communication, or like a email communication? I will have to kind of talk about that. So please keep this in mind. All this while we were talking only about the project. We only talk about the product, but it is not all. What you have to deliver is not all. Why? Because even this will come into your scope. Your scope is also delivery. So you design and develop the software. You're not going to keep your software with you. The software is working ready, but it's not deployed on the customer side. It's not done. Scope also includes deployment. So when I'm going to be deploying the software, that's when the job, when it's moved from my side to the customer side and customer has received it, it's working fine at the customer side. That's when my job gets done. So who is going to do the transition? That is also we have to plan for requirements, because when you will transition, you have to understand the customer's readiness. Well, is the customer ready to accept it? You may have designed, developed, you're an IT company, you got great servers, great infrastructure, the customer doesn't have it. So even you have to understand the IT infrastructure is great or not. Will it be able to support the software or not? Well, you have to conduct the training. You have to prepare the quality manuals, troubleshooting guides, but all those things. Well, do you think the customer is ready? So even you have to think about the transition and readiness of the customer. That is also part of your scope. And yes, if their customer is already using some server, then who is going to decommission? Who's going to remove that? Well, do you think I will be doing it? Or you'll have somebody else come and do that job? Because if I do it, I'm going to be billing that again. Everything is billable. So all in all, when you're going to collect requirement, you just don't collect requirement about your product, what you need to create, but you also collect requirement about everything else. Because requirements are not just about product or service. Requirements is about everything else. So there are reporting requirements, like business requirements. It could be talking about even talk about this transition thing. So everything which is needed to be done, like practically, we will collect all these requirements. It's not just what you want to deliver, because then if I talk about just we want to deliver, it'll end here. That's what you hired us. You deliver the job. Yes, when I made a product, it's not over, because then I have to understand the quality requirements, understand how does it impact the business, the stakeholders requirement. There are other requirements. It's not just delivering a product, because in the project, there will be a lot of requirements which are just not the product. So these are additional, basically more of a sort of a checklist for us to keep in mind what kind of requirements will be captured during the project with the help of various stakeholders here. Let's see, what is it? Some elements which we need to keep in mind while collecting requirements. So the process, the procedures, which will be followed by the team during the project. And yes, as a project manager, you will be dealing with some of them. So we'll quickly kind of talk about these elements one by one. Expert judgment, we call it as OPA. Could be the sponsor, expert judgment. Could be other project managers if you want to refer within the organization. Somebody senior up, or could be some external organization. But since we are referring here, we are referring to OPA only, expert judgment, previous projects. I'll come back to this normal grouping technique in a moment. Observation, when you observe people doing their job, you find that they are doing the job. Say you have a team member, and this team member is struggling. When you saw this guy working on Excel, he's just struggling a lot. So your observation is a way to collect requirement, because you're understanding the training requirement of your team member. Because remember, that is also part of a project manager's job. Leadership skills, empowering the team members, skills, like you have to constantly upgrade the team that as an individual. So you have to observe the people and do the gap identification and then conduct the training. So observation is a way to collect requirement about the trainings when you see people what they're struggling with. Facilitation is what we're doing right now. This any kind of presentation kind of work is facilitation. Different ways of collecting data, brainstorming. We understand what's that. Interviews, we understand. Focus group meeting. Remember, we talked about SEAM, SEAM, SEAM. So sorry about that. So SEAM, while we created SEAM, we talked about people who really needed that attendance software were the HR people, payroll department, and probably the finance department. These guys were really struggling with this manual attendance system. That's my focus group. Why? Because they understand the need better. But the other ones who are dealing with the problem right now. So that's what I call as focus group, but practically if I reach out to them, they will be able to give me a complete insight because they have in and out understanding of that. Questionnaires and surveys for large geographically distributed team, always best option. Benchmarking, like this is a good way to understand requirement. When I have a competition, I can use that competition as benchmark. Right? Remember, I wanted to create this mobile application which will beat WhatsApp. That was my benchmark. What my best benchmark? WhatsApp was my benchmark. And then said, okay, whatever WhatsApp gives me, I will deliver, and I will deliver on top of it. So that's a benchmarking, will give you some requirement from your competition, which will give you an idea, at least this much I have to do. So that is way to collect requirement. When you talk about data analysis, you have document analysis, which is technically talking about OPAs and all. You can look at that. Alternative analysis, whenever you are trying to go ahead and work on like for example, we have doing a risk management. During risk management, we have a risk of fire. So what we want to do is for fixing the problem of fire, we have a fire extinguisher. We can use sand buckets. We can use water hydrants. There are different ways. So we do alternative analysis to see which is the best solution. And finally, we say, okay, we have options. We can use sand buckets, water. We can use the fire extinguisher, but this seems more reliable. So we have chosen fire extinguisher as an option. If in case fire, we'll be using this. But alternative analysis is to be done to get more ideas what needs to be done. Product analysis, we just did it. We talked about the functional, non-functional requirement. That's a way to collect requirement to discuss about the product. Now we'll talk about this one, and rather all of this. So what we are pending with is all this. So let's go back and check this out one by one. Now we'll go back to our Excel. The Excel sheet we have. Let's go back. In the Excel, we have got all this captured. We are switching to, first of all, voting. We'll go to nominal grouping also. First, I'm talking about voting now. Voting is when you say these are three different strategies, and we will be, all the three strategies as per the expert opinion. We can solve the we can solve the problem, or we can achieve what we want. But which one is the best one? How we decide? There are 10 team members. So we can do a voting. The only thumb rule with voting is you select only one. You got three options, but you have choice of selecting only one. What you think is right. One. Everyone has a choice to select one. And whichever gets the highest vote will be the winner. In voting, you only select one. That's where it will differentiate from the nominal grouping technique. Voting, you select only one. This is what we talk about voting. Now, nominal grouping technique, look at this. Same thing, but each person is rating and evaluating everything. So we have a scale of 1 to 5. 1 is the lowest rating. 5 is the best rating. So every person is a technical expert. Remember, they are domain experts. They will be doing this rating and ranking system based on their knowledge and interpretation. And highest rating will be, whichever we get the total highest, will be the winner. So here, everyone evaluates everything. In case of voting, you only select one. Here we select not we select, but we evaluate every idea, and then whichever idea gets the best ranking will be the winner. That's the difference between your nominal grouping and the voting technique. Multi-criteria decision analysis is used for data-driven decision-making. So whenever there is a decision-making, like we stuck with the decision-making thing, we can use this multi-criteria method. And let's check this multi-criteria now. Where people coming from Six Sigma will already know it, but any which is multi-criteria. How do you, it's more for decision making. So when I have to select a project, ideally, say, for example, I'm selecting a project. You got a project to work on, which is related to quality. I can pick up a project which is cost reduction. We can do a project to reduce the complaints. So they have different projects we could have picked up. Now, what we do in multi-criteria project decision, we try to see, well, what are the important criteria basis which a project will be selected. So all key decision maker, leadership team will sit down and first decide the criteria. On what grounds should we select a project? Well, cost, yes. It should be cost effective, definitely. It should generate more profit for us, definitely, yes. Time, yes, definitely, that could be important. That will be definitely important. Well, we talk about ease of implementation. That's also important. We can talk about, let's say, future applicability, like sometimes visit something which will help us become a market leader in future. Like we can have more criteria. So you decide. Like, so is it standard? No. The team will sit down, brainstorm, and come up with a long list of all possible factors which this team believes are important criteria for evaluating a project. So once you have done, each team will be responsible for doing the brainstorming and doing the rating between themselves, and say that we give a rating. 1 is the lowest rating, the bad rating, it's not good. 5 is best. So people will give their ratings, and it's a team discussion. So not individual. In that, as a team, you'll be having a discussion, and finally you'll be deciding a project here based on the final rating here. So once you get this rating done, do whatever you want. You want to take average, you want to take like sum. Sum is a easier option here. So you can take sum of this. Whichever is the highest rated one will be the final one. This is what we'll do, a project based on cost reduction. Why? Others are not important. No, the others are important, but this is more important. Why? It has got highest weightage in most of them. So it is more effective in terms of project. It's an overall winner. That's what you do in multi-criteria decision matrix. So whenever there are a lot of things to discuss and a lot of subjectivity, we always decide criterias, and then we are fair. Why? Because we are selecting we are trying to do a comparison of every idea on the same criteria. It would be wrong if I evaluate one criteria on one method, another criteria, another method. No, we have decided all the criteria, and everything is getting compared against a standard metric, which is why multi-criteria decision analysis is going to be used for data-driven decision making. And that's what we use in Six Sigma also. Now, quick one before we get going to the last section here, which is data representation. Is it okay and clear so far in this one? Is it fine? Quick check in this section. Is it okay? All right. Let's talk about multi-criteria rating. Let me kind of show it to you. Let me show it to you. Yeah, I will rather show it to you because just the ratings will be discussed, brainstorm. It's always based on the discussion within the team members. So it's always based on discussion. It's not like something which is fixed. People will brainstorm, agree, disagree, but there will always be a rating which will be. So there will be discussions which will happen. Obviously, they're not 100% correct. But again, as a team, we'll have to sit down and brainstorm to come up with the right rating which is going to be there. So this is a sample example of multi-criteria which we use in Six Sigma. This is one of those criteria I was just using here. They can use your own customized criteria. So the team will sit down and evaluate the ratings here. Ratings are done on a scale of 1 to 10, like 1 to 5. Do whatever you want. There's no rules to say that you have to take only 1 to 10. But again, 1 is the lowest rating. 5 is, say in case we're using 1 to 5, 5 is the best rating. So that means you support that project. 1 is that I don't support that project. 1 is less. So you can keep it that way, and based on so overall the team discussion will happen, debate, argument will happen, and finally the team will come up with a rating on that criteria. So in this case, when I'm talking about the rating and ranking, I'm looking at one means the lowest, like one in here means the highest cost, because cost is less the better. So wherever the project cost is least, I give a higher rating. Profit is always higher the better. So this was like 3 would be higher profit, and probably getting less profit from this one. What's the acceptable time frame? Diana, there's nothing called an acceptable time frame here. Or there's nothing called acceptable time frame. You're having a discussion, your project is already on, so you will be getting the project done like we will have to just finish it up based on the timeline, because you will have an estimated timeline already planned by this business analyst. But again, you just got to get over with it. Difference between nominal grouping technique and multi-criteria. In nominal grouping technique, you don't have criteria, right? Mr. Samad, you don't have criteria in nominal grouping. You just have strategies. You don't have criteria. You're selecting some options just based on the rating. If you look at the nominal grouping technique, there's nothing to select. There's no criteria to select here. You just go and look at it. Normal grouping technique, you just have A, B, C to select. You're just giving a rating. But there's on what grounds? On what grounds is not there. Let's talk about then here about the mind mapping technique. So mind mapping is when you try to find the common ideas. There's a group of people and there's a conflict happening here. So this group says we will implement a strategy A, strategy B, strategy C, and strategy D. Some say four different features we want to implement. And this team says, no, we will be implementing these features. As a conflict. So what we do in mind mapping, we want, first of all, we do not want unnecessary waste of time and unnecessary arguments coming into picture. So what we do is we first look at the common ideas, which is say, so both teams say A, D is common. So at least that these teams have something in common. They are not fighting on this fight. So since this is clear, let the team start the job of working on A and D so that the team can get some more time to work out. So because these are unique ideas, we got B, C, E, and F. These are unique ideas which were different in both the teams. So practically, we create a list of all common ideas where we do not have an argument or any kind of dispute here. So at least where we have clarity, we are safe, we think alike, we will at least start the work. At least we'll not start fighting and kind of have unnecessary delays. So at least we'll start with A and D. While we're doing the job, we will get to know about each other better. We'll be able to adjust our working styles, and probably we'll be able to get some more time to have a discussion as a team overall, which one out of C, E, F, and B will be picked up. So yes, it's more about coming up with unique methods, which will give you unique ideas, innovative ideas, which can be explored, but at least we will get started with a common one. So we don't lose time, we don't lose time. In case of mind mapping, it helps you to create a group of common and the unique ideas there. That's the job we do it. Mind mapping techniques, where you kind of collect requirements. Affinity diagram is used post a brainstorming session. There's no analysis which is done here, and I'm not sure what and how I will be showing you this affinity diagram, because my system has said I have messed up. So I will rather show it to you in Google. Affinity diagram is about similar ideas are put together. After brainstorming session, you put all same or similar ideas together, and it's a grouping activity. This is generally a team activity. The team will sit together and brainstorm and create a list of all similar ideas together. This is all, whatever you're seeing here, it's all an example. This is how a real world affinity diagram will be done. These are sticky notes used, and all these sticky notes are related to one problem. These all sticky notes related to one problem. So similar problems will be clubbed together. This is how it will look like in real world scenario. This is how you will see people who have sticky notes, and the yellow ones are heading of the notes. And finally, you have a affinity diagram created, which tells you there are similar problems which are clubbed together. You do it. This is an example of finally when you kind of do and design an affinity diagram. It's more of a grouping activity. This is basically all customer issues put into one group. All response related response channel related issues are put into one group. All prioritization issues are put into one group. Agent tools. So this is what you do with affinity. So we create a group of similar ideas together. That's what you do. There's nothing else. It's more about, it's not a tree diagram. So Suchitra, the only difference here is it's the purpose of having this tree diagram is to remove the duplicate ones. That's first. Because when you do a brainstorming, there will be a lot of duplicate ideas. So you remove the duplicate ones, and then it's a grouping exercise, which will help you to understand where the major problems are coming from. So you kind of create a group so we can understand these are the top probably the complaints or unique complaints in in this kind of category. Categorization is done here. That's it. It's for ease of identification. That's all. It's tree diagram is all about breaking it down. 100 affinity same 100% Lean Six Sigma and affinity diagram is same. So in brainstorming is you use this after brainstorming survey. We use affinity diagrams in Six Sigma. Yeah. Context diagram are like this, which is we already have here. Context diagram. This is what we call as context diagram. Say we have to design and develop some sort of software, which is going to be an e-learning portal. Say this e-learning portal will be giving Six Sigma, like yellow belt, green belt, black belt, master black belt, a lot of options. And apart from that, it will give you PMP and all that. That's the plan. So we're trying to go and design and develop an e-learning portal. But before we start doing it, we got to keep in mind the audience which will be interacting with us. This is what we call as context. So we want to create this, but before we start designing and doing a design work, development work, let's see who is going to use it. So students are going to use it. Yes. Some corporates will be using this. So yes, we may have some trainings done for corporates. How about government? How about community? We will try to understand the different areas who will be interacting with my software and what kind of information they would want to see from my end, and by basically the display, the interface, and what kind of information and how I will show information to them. And it'll be different. So student module could be different from a corporate module. So what kind of information they might want to fetch from us, and their platform, their interface could be different. Dashboard could be different. And how I can, what can I show it to them? Bottom line, I want to see how things are interconnected. So before when I start making it, I need to keep all those factors in mind. Say I want to make that as the attendance system. When I want to make that attendance system, I need to know how other departments are connected to the attendance system. HR, what kind of information HR would like to extract from my attendance system, and what sort of information I will be giving it to the HR. Basically, what information I would need from HR and what information I would give to HR. The payroll department, what kind of information I will give to payroll and what kind of information payroll would need from my end. The operations team. So bottom line, I need to keep in mind an employee who wants to see the number of leaves balance and all that. So I will look at all that part. When I want to create, I need to have a holistic picture of what is getting created and what kind of interactions will happen with my software, which is going to give you a picture. So when I'm going to design, I've got to keep in mind the different elements which will be interacting and having an interaction with my software. That's what we call as context diagram. And then we talk about the prototype and storyboard. So storyboard is just about presentation work. So what is storyboard? You come back and tell me I want the same software I was talking about. And I've never designed as a company this kind of software which has Six Sigma, PMP, the e-learning module and all that stuff done. But what I do is I have capabilities. So what I do is I make some presentation. PowerPoint, I show you, okay, first slide tells you this is how the first homepage will look like. You'll have these tabs here, and so and so. Image. Second slide tells you, okay, when you click on this page, the first tab, this is what you will see. The new page will have a layout. This third page, if you click on this tab, you will see this kind of. So I'm showing you some sort of layout, storyboarding, presentation, PowerPoint. I'm not showing you a real website. I'm not giving you a sample. I'm just showing you PowerPoint. That's the storyboarding. Now, if I show you a working model, or I will call that a prototype. So prototype is something which we can create during the construction, whenever construction projects are done, you create a prototype for say if I'm doing a house, some sort of housing project. So I will have this a more model, 3D model created, which tells this is going to be the entrance of this township. This is going to be the exit gates for the township, multiple exit gates, and this is where you enter from. These are the residential apartments here, this side, residential apartment. This is all golf course in between, and pretty much this is what I'm trying to sketch mine, by the way, what I'm trying to do here. So this is pretty much the area which is in the center. The golf course is right here. So you get in there. This is the area for swimming pool and all that. Bottom line, you have got. So you try to create a 3D model just by looking at it. That's a prototype. So a prototype could be a 3D model, or could actually be a working model, which can give you an insight. Well, this is how it should look like, a requirement collection. So you are able to show this is what we have. Well, do you have anything else to add on? Do you need some sort of mock-up? Yes. It's a mock-up sample, which will give you an idea. Like, so that's where we can show these things and collect requirements. So for example, my company is into manufacturing of robots. Like, so we are specialized in robots. And we have a very basic robot. And this robot can move forward, backward, left, and right. That's what I show you as prototype. So you are your company, you come to us and you say you need 50 robots, but you need some requirements. You have customization. I say, okay, why don't you see our robots? We have a working model, working robot, so we can show you, okay, robot, go forward, go back, come back. And well, they said very excited. At least they're able to see a working robot in front of them. But they say, apart from this, we need this robot to jump. Okay, done. Okay, we want this robot to bend and pick up things. Yes, done. So, well, I've shown you something, and we are able to connect. We are able to talk meaningful things. So because I've shown you some basic, you have developed the capability, like a belief in my capabilities. You're able to see something. All you're telling me that what else? So I'm collecting requirement by showing you a working model. That's what prototype. So it works easy. Now, all these things we talked about, you will see in the subsequent slides. So, well, practically, we talked about interviews. We know what is interviews, questionnaires and surveys, observations, focus group, facilitated group workshops, pretty much with the same thing. We've talked about all these things will be one by one kind of talked about. Benchmarking, we know what is benchmark. When you try to set the WhatsApp as a benchmark while you're designing this website, this application, we used benchmark. That gives you an idea. The best in the industry is doing it. So I've got idea where I need to be. So it gives you a way to kind of uplift your performance by keeping your competition as a benchmark. This slide is like I've always said, and this slide is something which is a misfit in this. Ideally, this should come in after. Somehow this is in a wrong place, but will be covered definitely. So we'll come back and discuss this is a prior to, because it's still talking about different types of methods and whatever we talked about. But it's in a misfit in the slide. So we'll come back later on the slide. Data representation, we talked about mind mapping. Well, look at for the common ideas and differences in ideas to generate new ideas. So you consolidate ideas, people will give you different ideas. You look into create a single map, which is all common ideas and all the different ideas in the ideas, which we talked about. The mind mapping. Affinity diagram allows the large ideas to be classified, basically for grouping activity. Context diagram, this is the same thing I was showed there. I'm just, you will have an idea how the interface works. Prototype and storyboarding, we just talked about. Storyboarding is about presentations, images, visuals, but that's what you talked about. But again, typically prototype will always be a working model or 3D model. Storyboarding is all about presentation stuff. And I guess we'll just leave it here. Now, so given the time, I don't think, because we'll be, so ideally, that slide ideally should have been at this stage. The one which we saw in between, that's a misfit. Like after prototype, ideally the slide should have come in. So the slide number, whatever slide number it was, which is requirement prioritization, Moscow analysis, Kano model, paired comparison, 100 points method. This slide should be after that. Like practically it's a wrong misfit place to be in. Any which ways, we'll discuss it later, because given the time, there's no way we can talk about any of this. So is it okay? Because we don't want to be going and rushing through anything here. Is it okay? We are like, I guess I'm not sure how much time we've got, but yeah, doesn't make sense because it's these are important ones. So we'll be rather leaving it here. So when we come back, we will, like next week, we will be starting with this slide and then move on to the other ones. So, but before we move on, just quickly, just want to make sure that we are clear about this. I am sharing, this is the link. I will rather do it in front of you right now. So at least I can verify you got it. So there's no confusion. Give me just 1 minute and it will not take long, because at least while we're in the session, we know for sure it's done. And if there is anyone who's facing a problem, we can talk about it. Day 5, I'm going to create a folder. This is trainer folder, which is not the recording one. Trainer folder is what you're talking about. Day 5, I'm moving this additional files here. The link I'm going to share in the chat. I am sharing all of it, like one by one, all of this. So batch 245, I'm just going to keep one by one. This is done. Much. We've got batch 245. This. Sharing this return. Okay. I'm first of all sharing this answer key. This is the answer key. We wanted to kind of, this were all the questions, process groups we had, all the questions. Number one. Mr. Faiz, these questions will also be basically testing about understanding. They're all scenario based. So there's not like, it's not about memorization. Nothing has to be, again, I said, like nothing has to be memorized. It's all about, questions are scenario based. They will be required to check whether you're able to relate with it or not. Well, the conceptually, what will be your decision? So we have to understand it rather than kind of dealing with so it's more on the understanding part. That practicing, see that's why like it's more on the period. It's more on the solving. So the actual preparation is about when you pick up the question and you start solving questions. So preparation work is more on the solving part, more on the less on the part of like we going through session, you reading the books and understanding. The preparation has to be like it's, I would say that 1/3 is when you acquire knowledge and 2/3 is when you practice questions. That's what is needed. The major work is about you solving. And that's why when I was scanning through this today in the morning, I saw that like there is a lot of the Rita Mulke 11 is definitely much better, but it has less questions in it. So it's more on the kind of script, the way I have written for predictive, but it's pretty neatly done. I would highly recommend pick up Rita Mulke 11th one, understand it first, and then solve the question. This is complete question. This one has plenty of questions in Rita Mulke 10th, but first do 10th, 11th, and then do this one. I will be sharing this Excel file. I have not shared the Excel file yet. So I will be sharing the Excel file with that screenshot. So give me like a couple of more minutes. I'll be sharing that Excel file from that list. Give me one quick second. I will be sharing that. So this is previous batch. I guess they have this slide Excel. They have this one, I guess, screenshot. Okay, let me just, I'll share that image separately. Will it be okay? I can put that in image by like today itself. Maha, this is Ricardo Vargas is more about the list of all this practice, basically how the predictive works there, like the flow chart kind of thing. And Mr. Hassan, I'll be putting that as an image, like allow me another 5 minutes and all. I'll just go and access that. I'll take a screenshot of that and just share that as an image in this day 5 itself. And then these are the 3 things which we talked about in the earlier. There's one extra thing which is there about the list of the programs. I'll just take a screenshot and add it here itself. Is it okay with everyone? I hope there's just one thing which is pending, which is the taking that presentation part. Okay. All right. So I guess that will be all. Allow me one quick moment. I'll just kind of place it, all of this, like the presentation stuff. Yeah, I'm just give me one quick second. I'm just going to share that one also. No, nothing for the notes. No, I'm still adding because there's nothing in the notes actually. Nothing much in the notes. We did not add anything in there apart from this image that I'll be adding now. So I'll be separately adding this image here. This one. Sure. Yeah. These are the plans. Mr. Mohammed, I guess you are referring to this one, right? I don't share the recordings, but like an IT team will definitely do it. I don't have access to recording, Mr. Yusuf. I have no access to the recordings. So recordings will be shared by the IT team. They will definitely. I guess you were referring to this only, right? Perfect. As soon as the recording is available, you'll be able to see that in the WhatsApp group. Yes, absolutely. And Mr. Hassan, I can check it out. If in case there's some more, I can definitely share that. I will definitely put it there. We'll be next connecting. I guess today is Friday, right? Like, so we'll be next connecting on Monday. Yeah. So let's in the meantime, I will just only recommend you to kind of work on the project part of like whatever we have given as the questions. Just try and work on those. Maha, again, so the trainer PPTs are shared by BMI and their instructor material, and they're not allowed. Well, that's what it says there, because they're instructor material. Since we're using these presentations in the, and they're technically not allowed to be shared. That's what it is, because they're mentioned as instructor material. They're not supposed to be shared. Having said that, since we use the presentation in the recording, but for somebody to watch that, like say 30, 40 slides, has to watch a complete 3-hour recording. So since that's why I kind of recorded all that, and because it was okay it was getting recorded, that's not a violation then. So we sort of found a way out to kind of share that information. Okay. All right, then. Everyone, please take good care of yourself. We'll be connecting on Monday now. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.